covering the spread all night long. This is VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio. Here's Patrick Meagher and Dustin Swedelson.
Say hi, Naya, New York, the big guy, Los Angeles. I'm Patrick Meagher, live from Los Angeles. We are streaming live, people, on YouTube. You can find the link at the Rap Radio. VSiN Live on YouTube. I want to thank Ryan, Alex, Dez, the whole crew behind the scenes, because the YouTube channel has got to get popping, people. So let's get over there and say hi. This is yesterday, maybe not a busy show. Today's a busy-ass show, and I'll tell you this. I think the Mavs are going to have to move the franchise. We'll tell you why coming up in just a bit. It is officially franchise tag deadline day. Who got tagged? Who didn't? What are the Giants doing? Wait until you hear the new plan the Giants have set forth. We'll get to that coming up in just a bit. We've got a star-studded cast. The big guy, of course. Mike Randall is going to join us. You call him Mr. 8 for 8. Mike Randall has been joining the program and has hit 8 straight winners. Fat winners, too. So he's going to go 9 for 9. He's going to try to go 9 for 9. We've been hearing from a lot of people in the Discord all over the place that he's just made them cash. He's paying mortgages, people. So Mike Randall coming up in just about 27 minutes. Ken Pomeroy is going to join. This is like inviting Sydney Sweeney on the show. People get excited. They get bitter because they want to have him on their program. But Ken Pom has been a friend for many years. We've been having him on for years. He is the college basketball savant. He is the numbers guru, the advanced analytics Jesus. And he is going to join us coming up in just a bit. And really, part of the conversation with Ken Pom, we have to talk about the historic nature of both Auburn and Duke, two teams that are just ridiculous. And we were talking last night, we actually texted some bookmakers about potentially going Auburn and Duke against the field. And we could talk more about that coming up. And then Mike Somich, part of the family, Samo Bomb, going to come by, hang out, chop it up. And then on to JT the Brick, Jonathan Trobnauer, following the program. Let's do what we do to start the program. The big guy laughing already. Let's do what we do to start the program, and that is a little media roundup. And we've got plenty to get to. Dustin Swedelson, how are we feeling?
Oh, talking to Ken Pom, that's kind of like talking the human in between us and AI. I think he was the original human in between AI, because that's what his website was, way ahead of its time. But on to the media roundup.
Hold on. Before we do the media roundup, can I just say this about our YouTube and Rumble stream, which we're thrilled about? I'll just say this. If you can hear my voice and you've ever been on YouTube, you've definitely been caught in a rabbit hole. You definitely have gotten manipulated by the algo. And here's the deal. I have a YouTube addiction. I'll give you one example. 10 years ago, I randomly watched a fragrance review on YouTube. 10 years later, I watch fragrance reviews. You know what I don't do? I don't wear fragrances. I just watch reviews. And you all have some sort of proclivity on YouTube, so don't judge me. I'm looking at what the newest Chanel is over here. The big guy, he gets into chiropractic videos. Naya back in New York City, she'll pretend she's addicted to something that she wouldn't admit to on YouTube. You just get caught up in the algo and you're on your way. Why do I bring this up? Because we need VSiN Live to get caught up in the algo. Nobody's going to go seek this show on YouTube. Steve Cohen, nobody's going to go seek this show on YouTube. We need that to get caught up in a fat algo. Then once people discover the show, they're going to be all about it, and it's appointment viewing on YouTube. That's what it comes down to. So let's help that algo get going. Now, do I know what an algorithm is? No. Do I know how to get caught up in an algorithm? No. Why do I watch fragrance reviews? I don't know. I've been manipulated. That's exactly what it comes down to. So anyway, I digress. I apologize.
It's an interesting one just because that's essentially the same as someone who watches food videos but doesn't actually eat. I don't even understand. You're watching something. you can't even experience it because you have to smell it at some point. So you're watching people explain what they're smelling, which at least with the eating, one day it's very accessible to go eat whatever it is they're eating or cook whatever they're cooking. Smelling the perfume they're smelling, you have to make an effort to go to the store, order it online, and it probably gets expensive in the end.
May I ask you a question? Did I brag about my addiction?
No.
No, I simply said I got caught up in the algo, and I'm an idiot.
Dude, I spent the summer of 2018 watching videos of an Irish guy shave cows' hooves. I'm not kidding. All he did was cows would have some sort of foot issue and they were limping on a farm. He'd show up, he'd put that thing on a strap, keep it still, and he would shave it down to like the bone so that the cow could survive longer. I watched hours of this guy.
Okay, well, and the bottom line is the reason for the YouTube stream is for all of you to get thirsty over what you can't have anymore, and that's Dustin Swedelson. You can look at him. He's svelte. He looks great, but he is booed up. So at this point, for the ladies that are going to be tuning in, that man is off the market. So be careful.
Yeah, but if you DM me, I'm not going to reply, but I'm going to show my girlfriend to make her jealous so that at least she thinks like other people are interested. I think that would help my cause with her a lot because God knows her DMs go off. It's not pretty.
That sounds healthy. Yeah, probably Kawhi Leonard. Anyway, let's get to
got big hands.
Let's get to a media roundup. You know how we start the program. The A topics across the network, across VSiN. What are people talking about today, Dustin Swedelson?
I'm going to take you through my routine. My routine begins with checking out what First Take is into. It's the #1 cable show. When it comes to this, our guy Doggy will be on tomorrow, I believe. Oh, no, he's on vacation. He's on an island somewhere, so he won't be on tomorrow. But they opened talking about SGA dropping 51 last night, and they asked the question, is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander right now the best player in the NBA? And there was a really interesting take that came out of the mouth of someone, and I'm going to delay identifying them for a moment, because he said, no, SGA is having the best year. Jokic is the best player in the world. And I thought it was interesting that those words came out of the mouth of the guy who started the propaganda against Nikola Jokic. He said, Kendrick Perkins said that Nikola Jokic is still the best player in the world. Yet a couple years ago, when Joel Embiid won his MVP, it was Kendrick Perkins who started the campaign against Nikola Jokic, and now he's calling him the best player in the world. This guy's got to make up what he's doing with his life.
Yeah, Kendrick the clown. Hey, you can go check out VSiN.com for the odds and how to bet the awards market. And right now, after the 51 burger that SGA dropped on Houston last night, I think he's minus like 650 to win the MVP.
Yeah,
what
it's
else?
over. All right, Shine on Sports. Look, you know Adam's our guy. We work at both jobs with him. We love Adam. Ride or die for a very long time. But he opened the show with Sam Darnold not being franchise tagged by the Minnesota Vikings. And he talks a lot about Sam Darnold. I don't know if you've noticed this, but it's like a Richard Ramirez thing at this point. He's like the Night Stalker of Sam Darnold. There's a lot of Stafford. It's a lot of Darnold. And when he can, good God, our guy Adam Shine loves to mix in a Josh Allen reference. So I'm just curious, Adam, if you're listening, F, marry, kill. Matt Stafford, Sam Darnold, Josh Allen. I don't know how he chooses that. He's in love with all three, but he was on a Sam Darnold tirade to the point where I'm curious if Adam gets a cut of his next contract.
My guy Shine, he goes in on the NFL, and you can see me join Adam Shine on Make It Rain on Thursdays on VSiN. What else?
Beetle and Decker in the midday. They open with my favorite take of the day. I've never agreed with a statement more than when they open the show with it's Tuesday, and Tuesday is obviously the worst day of the week. Because Monday, at least it's a fresh start. Wednesday, you're halfway home. Thursday's the day before Friday. Friday is the beginning of the weekend. Nobody really does work on Friday. And then Saturday and Sunday speak for themselves. So when they said that, it was honestly the take of the day for me, just because I agree Tuesday is by far the worst day of the week.
Hold on. Michelle and Cody were breaking down the calendar. The football season must be over.
Yes.
What else?
Then Mad Dog Unleashed, it was Danny Parkins filling in for the doggy.
What
then
did Torrey do?
Steve Torrey. I feel bad here. I'm going to come off as a rude person, but I don't know if you saw, Saquon Barkley signed an extension with the Eagles.
Yes, sir.
He's the highest paid running back in football.
Yes, sir.
And Steve asked the question, is Saquon Barkley the best free agent signing of all time in NFL history, it's actually a topic I love. Do you know why? Because we did it about a month ago before the Super Bowl.
Well, are you casting dispersions upon Steve Torrey that he's jockeying your topics because you're a host?
No. I had to double check the calendar because it's March 4th, 2025, and he wasn't a free agent right now. He's a free agent 1 year ago today, and that's when the signing happened. So that's all I'm saying there. I love Steve, but he wasn't a free agent now. It's not the story for me.
Okay, well, if you check the calendar, just listen to Beadle and Decker. All right, that's the big guy with the media roundup. Now, we talk the football conversation. I'm going to put over here for a second because the main conversation is Kyrie Irving. If you didn't hear, and this is, again, reinforcing what we already knew, and that is the Dallas Mavericks made the worst trade in the history of sports. It's going to go down. I don't even know if the story has fully been written, but Kyrie Irving is out for the rest of the year with an ACL. Because of that, it looks like Anthony Davis has said he's going to shut it down for the rest of the year as well. I'm not saying this sarcastically or what is that word?
Hyperbolic?
Lee. I think the Dallas Mavericks are going to have to move the franchise. And I mean that because the idea that they're going to watch potentially what they gave away for 15 more years while that fan base has completely done an about face, a 180. They don't want to be there. The Dallas Mavericks, by the way, 2 days ago announced they were going to raise ticket prices. So, talk about not having a feel for what's happening in your town. You got rid of the native son in Luka Doncic. You then were kicking people out because they were protesting against the general manager. You then came out and disparaged Luka Doncic by calling him fat, calling him a drunk, and saying he didn't get along with people. He smokes hookah and he likes beer. Right? He sounds like a good guy. And then, obviously, you raise the season ticket prices for next year. Dustin asked me, is it inflation? No, it's stupidity. The concept that you would raise ticket prices in the midst of a PR nightmare. The Dallas Mavericks, again, just to reassert, they're going to have to move this damn franchise. And by the way, I'm not even sure they don't want to move the franchise.
No, yeah.
The ownership groups from Vegas, they want to go to Vegas.
No, that you're giving them what they want if you move the franchise. Make them stay their asses in Dallas where everyone hates them and figure this out. That would getting them out of this whole problem is letting them move to Vegas or Seattle or somewhere else. Anywhere at this point is better than Dallas. That city would take an expansion franchise. We've already reached the point where we're like a month and a half since that trade. I need to know if someone's working on a 30 for 30. I need to know if someone's doing the investigative journalism. There needs to be more to this story than what we've seen because this is one of the greatest fall from graces we've ever seen from a franchise. They were in the NBA Finals a year ago. In fact, 3 years ago, they had Jalen Brunson on this roster. But if you just think about last year to this year, NBA Finals, they have injuries to Likely, injuries to Gafford. They trade Luka. AD gets hurt immediately. Also, we shouldn't sweep under the rug. They traded Quentin Grimes. He dropped like 40 points the other night. Kyrie's now out with the ACL. The Lakers are up to the 2 seed. And then you mentioned the ticket prices go up 8%. This is one of the greatest fall from graces we've ever seen from a sports team in a very short amount of time. Their whole thing when they traded for AD, they said they shortened the window to try and win now. Well, that window is closing even faster because no AD, no Kyrie. And oh, by the way, when does Kyrie come back? A year from today?
He's 33 years old. The party's over. You just got rid of a 25-year-old. And by the way, that 25-year-old team, give me the odds if you can, Dustin. They're hosting the Pelicans tonight. My guess is it's well into the doubles. And they've won 6 straight.
8.5. Austin Reeves is out. Luka's questionable. And LeBron is questionable. Dory Finney-Smith over 14.5 PRA is the play tonight, people. He's going to get a lot of run in a blowout.
All right. You can't make it up. Honestly, when talking about the Dallas Mavericks, you can't make it up. And you don't wish injury on anyone. I don't know if y'all believe in karma, but what's happening right now with the Mavericks, AD, who they traded for, isn't going to play the rest of the year. Kyrie Irving, who they expected after Luka left to essentially lead the team, he's done for the year at 33. With an ACL. It is, honestly, it's inconceivable what's happening right now. Move the franchise.
Move him somewhere bad, though. Don't let them go somewhere good. Don't let them benefit from this. Make them go to the middle of nowhere. Give them Montana's first ever pro franchise.
Okay. All right. By the way, with Randall coming up, let me just do this quickly on college hoops because we do have a great matchup. You know, Steve Torrey is tripping because tonight, I believe Indiana is at Oregon.
Yeah.
And he's like, they're sucking me back in. They still have an opportunity to make the tournament, that being Indiana. But the big matchup of the night, there's two of them. If you look at the college basketball board, Auburn, your number 1 seed, at 22, Texas A&M. Auburn's laying 4.5 on the road. We had Jim Root on the program from Three Man Weave last night, and he said it's situationally a tremendous spot for the Aggies. So he took the 4.5. I'll tell you what I would do. I would stay the F away if you're not laying it with Auburn, because right now they're a freaking wagon. Now, they did just wrap up the SEC, so a little bit of emotional letdown after the beatdown of Kentucky in Lexington over the weekend, but I'm certainly not getting in front of that bus.
I'm not laying it with Texas A&M right now. This is a team that a lot of people were hyping up a few weeks ago because it's a lot of veterans, a lot of guys who've been through a lot at the collegiate level. You're not going to have to deal in the tournament with like 18, 19-year-olds that are, wetting their pants on the big stage. But they've lost 4 in a row now at Mississippi State, versus Tennessee, versus Vandy, and at Florida. And it's a pretty tough schedule, but losing 4 in a row right now and number 1's coming to town in Auburn, I absolutely don't want to back A&M. I would think about laying it with Auburn, but again, you're right. It is a letdown spot for them. They're almost at the end of the regular season here. They can't do anything to change their seeding. They're still going to be a 1 seed. All these games are kind of pointless for Auburn at this point, but in no way do I feel good about betting on Texas A&M at this point in the season.
Elsewhere, you have 23 BYU. So BYU is ranked. Now, they have picked up in recent history a couple of big wins on the road. They are a home court team, and they're at Iowa State. Iowa State's a wagon, 22-7. They're 10 in the country. But BYU, Iowa State laying 8.5.
I don't love BYU on the road. I don't know if I trust them on the road. Hilton's a tough place to play. Iowa State really good, obviously, on the defensive end of things. They have a great coach. BYU likes to shoot the 3 a lot. I don't know if that travels as well. It's a big number, but if I was betting it, Patrick, I would lay the points with Iowa State.
Yeah, I think I would too. Although I do like the BYU team. They can stroke it from outside. Elsewhere, 16 Memphis, UTSA, Rutgers, who I think they had started to put together a few wins in a row until, let's see, Rutgers, they lost last time out to Michigan, just by 2, though. And prior to that, they had 1-2 straight, Washington and USC. They're at Purdue tonight. LSU's at Kentucky. Kentucky looking for a bounce back, as I mentioned, got pummeled over the weekend against Auburn. And then Arizona State at Arizona. Arizona State, by the way, if you need them, Mr. Hurley, are 13-16.
It's your boy. You love the Hurley brothers. You're a big fan. You want to go to their camp.
No, I don't have a problem with the Hurley brothers. Honestly, and I know people think that I have, yes, are they brash and braggadocious? He has a right to be. He backs it up, the dude at UConn. My problem is with Bobby Hurley, who last year had a nice season. Other than that, his tenure at Arizona State has been a disaster, and he's had plenty of time to build it.
No, he's been there a minute now. You're absolutely right. I guess it's harder to win there. I guess I don't know. That's what people say because it's a super public university that cares about things that aren't sports. But Arizona's right down the road, and they're always good. So they're facing Arizona today. Arizona's laying 17.5. Just because it's a rivalry game, I'd back the donk in this one. And Bobby Hurley, get him confused. Bobby Hurley, former Duke player. That's the way I'd look, but I would not be running to the window with that ticket.
I do wonder if, a Mad Dog, obviously a VSiN audience, because of the betting, can't wait for the conference tournaments, which, by the way, 3 more leagues underway today. So a betting audience is going to get into conference tournaments, obviously the dance. I do wonder, it does feel like from my years on Mad Dog Sports Radio, I feel like the tournament, the legit tournament, they start to get into it. I don't know if regular season college basketball, and again, I wouldn't blame anybody because even when talking about Auburn as an all-time great team, there isn't a familiarity. There isn't a, hey, I've been with this person along for the ride as far as specific players for years and years. So it's much different. The landscape is just much different.
Yeah, I think the conference tournaments are a pure degen thing. I think it's the fact that those games are on during the day, they're nonstop. There's opportunities to get out, to make money, to double up, to get some winnings back that you lost earlier in the day. They're all happening at once, so it's like constant ADD across the screens everywhere you go. You flip to a different game all day long. I think that plays into it, but I think it's a purely betting thing. I don't think most people care until the first four, but even then, they really don't care till that first Thursday.
All right, coming up, Mike Randall. You're not going to want to miss this. Even if you're not a bettor, this streak is gaining momentum. He's 8 for 8 on the program with college basketball plays. He's looking to go 9 for 9. So Mike Randall is going to join. And then we have to discuss what is a busy day in the NFL. Players being released, players being tagged, and the rumors surrounding. Now, remember, we told you yesterday that the Giants had jumped up to a close to even favorite to draft number 1 overall in the forthcoming draft. The issue with that is they don't have the number 1 overall draft pick, so they're going to have to trade up for it. Well, it looks like they've jumped to a minus 150 favorite to choose Cam Ward, because that's no secret. That's what they're going to do. However, the rumors coming out of Giants land are they might be adding a big ticket free agent as well. And the name is going to shock you. We'll discuss that and more. It's VSiN Live, Mad Dog Sports Radio.
This is VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio with Patrick Maher and Dustin.
Can you hear me? You were way too high.
Sports Radio with Patrick Maher and Dustin Swedelson.
VSiN Live, Mad Dog Sports Radio, as we welcome you back, the big guy, Dustin Swedelson. I'm Patrick Maher. We've got Mike Randall, the GOAT, FTN, of course, SiriusXM Fantasy host as well. He's joining us in a couple of minutes, looking to go 9 for 9. We are now streaming live on YouTube. Make sure you check it out. We appreciate that. Come by, say hi, and Dustin will hit you back at VSiN Live on YouTube. Outside of, we're going to get to the college basketball with Randall here in just a second. Outside of that, as far as the NBA tonight, an 8-8 Mad Dog 6, 888-623-3646. The NBA tonight, really the matchup that matters, and the Knicks are laying 1.5. Warriors, Knicks, big guy. I know the Warriors on the second half of back-to-back. What about the Knicks?
I actually don't have that in front of me right now on the Knicks, but I do know they play a ton of minutes every night. That's always the issue with the Knicks. This is a spot, though, where I think the Knicks do get up for Golden State. However, they're really bad against shooting guards. I want to target Brandon Pajemski tonight for Golden State. I think it could be a game where he goes off points and rebounds. That's one guy that I'm eyeing from that perspective. But I do think the Knicks are at a spot where Golden State's playing well, and this is a litmus test for them. I do think the Knicks will get up for this game, just laying one, totals 227 at MSG.
Now, all second half of back-to-backs aren't created equal, and the Warriors did play Charlotte yesterday. So that's important to note. It's not exerting a ton of effort at the Hornets. Elsewhere, I mentioned the Pelicans at the Lakers. Really, the Lakers are just a story now because of Luka. The Clippers are at the Suns. The story there is the Suns are imploding with a lot of whispers coming out of that organization. Coach could get fired. KD's going to be moved. Is Beal going to eventually end up somewhere else? Devin Booker came out and said he doesn't want to be traded. The Cavs at the Bulls, Bucks, Hawks, really not much outside of Warriors, Knicks, big guy.
Yeah, it's a tough slate. I'm obviously a heavy player prop bets tonight. I love Kobe White. Now, the numbers adjusted. Kobe White went over 29.5 PRA. It was on VSiN.com/picks last night. But since I bet it, Giddey was ruled out. Lonzo was ruled out, no Vucevic, so it's going to be a lot of Kobe White in that backcourt, taking on a Cleveland team that runs up and down. There's a lot of scoring, the best over team, and they allow the 5th most points to point guard. So I love that play for Kobe White tonight. Even if with the adjusted number, I'd look at backing him when it comes to points or even his PRA, combined points, rebounds, and assists.
All right, we're waiting on Randall. He hasn't popped in yet, has he?
I do not see Mr. Randall yet. I just sent him a text to make sure he got the updated link that I emailed him today.
All right, and Ken Pom is going to be joining for the Hoop Heads. Looking forward to talking to Ken Pomeroy, kenpom.com, coming up in just a little bit. Also, Mike Somich joining the program as well. We mentioned, there he is, Randall, Mr. 8 for 8. You can find Randall, FTNFantasy.com. He's the content officer over there. Also coming up in a half hour on SiriusXM Fantasy. He's a host, 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern time at Randall Rant, as we say hi to the GOAT. And look, the pressure is mounting. There's really no way around it. I mean, my man is 8 for 8 on the program. A hell of a run, Randall. You're on a heater.
Just one day at a time, boys. We do what we do. We just go one day, one meal, one moment. And we just build upon the foundation. Chopping wood here out in New Jersey.
One shining moment. Now, could we share what you texted Dustin Swedelson earlier today? Is that for air? Big guy, do you have the text in front of you?
Yeah, no, it's aggressive. And now Mike Randall is usually aggressive in the text. So he sent me all of his plays. And then I want to say, let's see. About 40 minutes later, I get another text, and it's add Wyoming -1.5 at Fresno. I have a personal issue with the head coach. Quote, we had words at a UMass fundraiser. So I guess we got to know what went down.
Yes, no problem.
Talking about
Met my brother-in-law. He realized he was stuck with me for life, so he's probably just trying to do something with me. He was a booster to UMass basketball when Travis Ford was there. Travis Ford hired Vance Wahlberg to come over and run the offense, the dribble drive. So I was a friend of the program. So I got to go to Travis Ford's house. He had all the boosters over there. And at the time I'm coaching basketball. So I saunter over to Mr. Wahlberg there. And I asked him about the dribble drive offense and just his thoughts. And I would think that Mr. Wahlberg would be open to this, since most of the conversations, Patrick, as you know, guys, what's going on with you? Nothing. What's going on with you? Generic. I'm getting into the dribble drive. He looks at me after I give him, really admire your work, etc. He goes, "How did you get in here?" That's his question. How did I get in here? Like I'm Costanza or I'm Kramer with the Paul O'Neill thing. So I go, "Yeah, I'm a friend of the program, actually, Vance." Okay. And like he just walked away from me. So ever since then, it's a shame this year, guys. Vance is 1-17 in conference, 5-24. That's shocking, by the way. A little shocking there, Fresno State, but okay. Yeah, true story. True story.
Yeah, well, you're always in the mix somehow. How did you get in here is a hell of a quote. It's a hell
That's
of
what he said. Not even hello, nice to meet you. How'd you get in here? Well, through the front door, Vance?
Well, Randall, maybe a little karma because your boy Vance going through a little bit of drama at Fresno right now. I don't know if you guys know.
That's a shame.
Players
That's
being
a shame.
for betting unders on their own player props.
Oh,
Seinfeld
really?
gift. Seinfeld gift eating popcorn. Isn't that a shame?
And that reminds me of another weird situation in college hoops, and it's Milwaukee, Wisconsin, correct? Where Gottlieb is. Doug Gottlieb. So most know Gottlieb. He had drama back in his college days. He then goes on to become a talking head, one of us, and not very good at it, on, I believe, Fox. And so then he gets a job. He jumps to the front of the line and gets a job at Milwaukee, Wisconsin, which is ironic because that's not necessarily irony, but that's where Bruce Pearl was before he went to Tennessee. Now Auburn has one of the great teams. Anyway, let's just say very clearly that this Milwaukee, Wisconsin team is not great, Randall. He can't win a basketball game. He's doing a disservice to the kids. All he's going to do is lecture us about how hard he works when he's got another full-time job hosting a radio show. It's a mockery.
Yeah, guys, there's this trend recently that remember Aaron Boone took over the Yankees, wasn't really a great player, had no coaching experience. This seems to be a thing. JJ Redick taking over the Lakers, one of the story franchises of the NBA, no coaching experience. Doug Gottlieb is a podcaster. And I have to tell you, I'm actually shocked that they're 4-27, right? Sustained success matters. Tonight, guys, he's going against Greg Kampe in Oakland. Who is Greg Kampe? Just became the all-time winningest coach in the Horizon. He's been there for 40 years. Oh, by the way, he spanked Kentucky in the opening round last year of the tournament. You got a podcaster going against Greg Kampe in a one-and-done situation? Boy, I mean, this is just giving us laughter here. Not surprising. What was it, 11? The spread was 11?
Hey, by the way, Greg Kampe, friend of the show.
Oh, legend.
Invited me
Long time.
when I go back to Michigan, said we should go to McDonald's together. Golden Grizzlies, Greg Kampe.
Ready? So fun fact, Randall, the first time I booked Kampe for this show, I thought I was texting the Oakland, California head coach, put him on the show. Patrick opens the interview by saying, people don't know this, but I did 3 years at South Carolina, but technically I'm a graduate of Oakland University. Blew my mind. Didn't know there was an Oakland University in Michigan, but Patrick went there and him and Kampe became close friends.
That's great. Greg Kampe's a legend. That man can coach, and it's a disservice that people get jobs without any experience. You gotta grind, guys. Right? Like I grinded from the 18th kid on my freshman basketball team to a starter. It's the grind. It's what you do. Kampe's a legend.
Well, there are two famous alums from Oakland University, me and David Hasselhoff. What up?
Not necessarily in that order.
No, I would say it is in that order. Thank you very much. I wanted to ask you about a specific basketball team because our fearless leader here at Mad Dog Sports Radio, Steve Torrey, he's obsessed with Indiana basketball. And I asked him how he's feeling. Indiana's at Oregon tonight. Oregon's laying 6 and a hook. And he said he expects Indiana to get blown out. But if they win, they're officially sucking them back in. Where are you on Indiana basketball right now?
Oregon by 20. Very simple. This was the backup pick, guys, to the pick tonight, which we will get to. This was the backup pick, Dustin. This is why it took me a while. Let me tell you something. Mike Woodson already figured it out, huh? After a 16-8 and 5-8 start in the Big Ten, we've won 5 straight games. Now we got it rolling. Indiana, we're back in. We're back on the bandwagon. And who are they playing? Oh, they're going out to Oregon. Oh, they have a good coach, Dana Altman. Okay. Well, they'll be able to dominate the front line. Nope. Nate Biddle inside. Oregon by 20.
Oregon by 20. That's not going to make one Steve Torrey happy, but that was his sentiment on the text message earlier today. He expects a blowout.
He's correct. Good job by Steve.
By the way, Ken Pom has Oregon at 33. How good do you think Oregon is when it comes to the tournament? Just because Dana Altman's, he's a great coach. Does Oregon look like a team that can make a run, or are they just kind of, beating Wisconsin a couple of weeks is going to be the highlight of their season?
No, they're a problem. They're a problem. They've won 5 straight games. They had that rough run against Minnesota, UCLA, Nebraska, Michigan. They should have won the Michigan State game, guys. They were up big and they blew it late. Team can make the 3. They shoot 40% of their shots from beyond the arc. That's good because it's high variance there. Dana Altman's a great coach. They're live. They're 10-8. They are live. They are a nice future in the Big Ten tournament. Let's take it easy with Michigan. And again, Michigan State is always a legend, but again, they don't have a lot of talent. Dana Altman's the problem here. I expect them to get rolling. I expect them to pound Indiana, pound Washington away, enter the tournament 23-8, 12-8 here inside the Big Ten. Oregon's a problem. They are a very active, Dustin, 7-10 game sort of seed, and then they're playing a 2 seed, and all of a sudden the game's tied with 3 minutes left. That's Dana Altman's wheelhouse right there. Yes.
Historic heater, Mike Randall, FTNFantasy.com, SiriusXM fantasy host. He's 8 for 8 on the program, people. Looking to go 9 for 9. We'll get to the picks in just a second. Elsewhere across the college basketball landscape. So we have Ken Pom coming up in less than an hour on the program. And
legend.
He has
another legend.
It's a good get. It's a good get.
Yeah. Good
he has Duke and Auburn, analytically as 2 of the best teams since he's been charting these teams. Let's talk about how good. Dustin, do you remember what the number Thomas Gable, who runs the Borgata, what's the number he gave us for Duke Auburn against the field? I think it was, what was it?
280. It was plus 280, the field minus 335.
Okay. How good are Duke and Auburn?
Oh, they're legit. You're looking, guys, at what could be last year, Purdue battling UConn. You could have that level. I am positive at least one, if not both of them, make the Final Four. They are that good. If you made me pick one, it would be Auburn. Although I think Auburn's in trouble tonight against Texas A&M, against Buzz Williams on a 4-game losing streak. But they're both balanced. They play great defense. They have depth. They shoot the 3. They have a go-to guy. They're both great. Shire's done a good job. And I was critical of Shire early. I thought he was, you don't want to be the man that follows the man, right? But he's done a really nice job. Flag is legit. They're both great. Over-under is 1.5 of them getting there. I think 1 for sure, and maybe 2. Could have 2 1 seeds there. You won't have more than 2 1 seeds, but I think these could be the ones.
Look, that's the top of the bracket, those 2 teams. I'm curious, Randall, the bubble teams. And by the way, every single one of these experts has a different group of bubble teams right now. Like late in the year, we still don't know who exactly all the bubble teams are, right? But from your perspective, is there a team sitting there right now that may or may not make it that you believe if they get in, they could be dangerous?
Oh, without a doubt, it's Xavier. It's Xavier. I've been pounding the drum. Xavier is this year's NC State, and they are on the bubble. And I think if you look at every bracketology, it's like the last one in because they only have 2 quad 1 wins. Guys, they have struggled. They have great talent. Zach Fremantle, the big man's back. They have won 5 straight games. They should take care of Butler tomorrow night, and then Providence at home puts them at 13-7. They have everything you want, Dustin, from a team that is a bubble team. First of all, they play in a great conference. They're used to elite opponents. They're great on offense. They're great on the defensive boards. They're shooting 39% from 3-point range, and they make their free throws. And by the way, guys, they have the second oldest roster, D1 experience, second most experienced roster per Ken Pom coming on in the entire country. It's Xavier for me. I want them. I would love for them to get to the play-in game because every year except for one, the play-in team has gotten hot. And I would love Xavier. If they're in the play-in game, I'm going to put them in the Final Four because it would just be the cherry on top of what people are underrating here because everybody's like, who did Xavier beat? I get it, guys, but they're dangerous. They're balanced. They have a great coach in Sean Miller. They're a problem.
And finally, before we get to the plays, 9 straight for Houston. Kansas pushed them last night, but it's not a great Kansas team. We know preseason won, as you know, Mr. Randall. But Cryer dropped 22, and number 3, Houston. So I asked the question about Duke and Auburn. Surprised, shocked if Houston doesn't get to a Sweet 16?
He is so good, and you can't prepare for what they do. So they are reason that they're tough, Patrick, is that second game of the weekend is lethal. Your best chance to get them, they're not losing in the opening round. So the chance that you have to get them in the Sweet 16 because you have a week to prepare. But their defense is legit. I just hope for health. Whenever they've struggled because somebody got injured, Jamal Shed or somebody in the past, I believe in them. Emmanuel Sharp needs to stay healthy. He was in the booty at 12 points last night, made his free throws, which is good. But this team is incredible. Juwan Roberts hugging Kelvin Sampson, their special connection. They are legit. Absolutely. Wouldn't be surprised if like Duke didn't made it, but Houston did. That's something that could happen. They're just so tough to prepare for. And if you're going to get them, it's not going to be the second day of a weekend because you only have one day to prepare. God help you with that defense.
Coming up here, 17 minutes, Randall. Baylor is a 3.5-point road favorite at TCU. Totals 139.5. What do you think of this matchup between Drew and Dixon?
Yeah, wrong team's favored. This is an intra-state rivalry here with Baylor and TCU. TCU actually has some good size. They can bang with Baylor, and Baylor has struggled here, guys. Lost 3 of their last 4 games. Congratulations on beating Oklahoma State at home, okay? And they almost lost away at home to West Virginia as well. But they've struggled without Josh Ujanwuna, the backup big man. So it's just Norchad Omier, who can't get in foul trouble. Jeremy Roach has been nowhere near what he got for NIL to go to Baylor. It's just not their year. It's not Kansas's year. It's not Baylor's year. Give me TCU and the points here at home. I think that's nuts. I don't know how Baylor's favorite on the road. 9-9 in Big 12, 17 and 12 overall. Forget it. And TCU actually has done some nice things lately. Beat Texas Tech at home. Has had some good wins.
Okay, I don't know the official pick 9 for 9. So what I'll do is I'll give the 3 remaining, and you can go in order. Iowa State hosting BYU, A&M hosting Auburn, and then Wyoming at Fresno State. You got 3 plays. Why don't you save your 9 for 9 for last year, Randall?
All right, well, we're going to start with the Wyoming one because this is a personal vendetta. But I will point out that Wyoming under Sundance Wicks. Now, Sundance Wicks came over from Green Bay and did an incredible job at Green Bay and probably could have made the NCAA tournament if it wasn't for an injury that he had very late in the year. They played a very slow pace, but they also shoot the 3, and they're very good fundamentally. They played Fresno already at home and won in overtime, 83-72. I just don't believe in Fresno State. There's bad mojo going on there. They're terrible in the conference at defending the 2. They can't score. They can't make their free throws. They can't rebound. And like you said, the guy on the bench makes me concerned here. So I'm going to take Wyoming, I believe, getting a 1.5. I think it is at this point. Are they getting a 1.5? Yeah. I will take Wyoming for the money line upset here at Fresno State.
All right. Next one, A&M Auburn or Iowa State BYU?
All right. The next one, which is not the pick, is A&M Auburn. Look, there are a few things I go against. Now, last week I came on and told you about the buzz cut, which was Scott Cross, and Scott Cross covers. Well, Buzz Williams is that same type of coach. They have lost 4 straight games, Mississippi State, Tennessee, Vandy, and Florida. Those are tough games, guys. But Buzz Williams is an incredible coach, and they are the #1 offensive rebounding team in the country. They're in College Station tonight against Auburn. They're ready to go. This is the first matchup between Auburn and Texas A&M this year. Auburn has nothing to play for here. It's about time for the flat spot. We've talked about this. 15-1 in conference. They won the SEC 27-2. Oh, and by the way, what would be the game, Dustin, you'd want for a look ahead for Auburn on Saturday? That's right. The Alabama Crimson Tide coming to town against Auburn. Everything adds up here. Buzz Williams, no one believes in us. Back against the wall. Wade Taylor's going to drop 35. He can be feast or famine. Tonight he's going to be feast. I got this at 5.5. I think it's down to 4.5, 3.5 now. I'll take Buzz in the points.
All right. And finally, BYU is at Iowa State. I got an 8.5 in the market at DraftKings. So Iowa State laying 8 and a hook hosting BYU. This is for 9 for 9, people. What do you got, Randall?
People have underrated Iowa State all year. And the reason, guys, is I ask you this rhetorical question. How many games has Iowa State lost this year when they've had their full team healthy? The answer is 1. And that game was to Auburn on November 25th in Hawaii by 2 points. People don't like teams that play slow. People don't like TJ Osselberger, Tony Bennett type teams. They don't, but they should. This team is balanced. They have Keyshawn Gilbert back, Curtis Jones shooting threes. Milan Momcilovic is hot from the outside. and they are Houston light. They went into Houston without their two leading scorers and kept that game close in Houston. That's all you need to know. Now let's go to the other side. Everybody's excited about BYU. Kevin Young comes over from the Phoenix Suns. He's running some NBA sets. He's just smarter than everyone, huh? Well, now you're going into Ames, and now you're going into Hilton Magic, and now you're going against the Wizard of Oz, TJ Osselberger. Listen, Kevin, you've done a great job with BYU. 6 straight wins. We're real fired up. You shoot the three well. You can't make your free throws, but you got some real high-octane offense, huh? Well, they don't play defense in the NBA, and you guys don't play defense either. You're going into Hilton Magic tonight, and everyone, guys, you check the VSiN numbers, whatever you want. Everyone's on BYU. Oh, BYU's hot. BYU's getting points. That's fantastic. You saw what Iowa State did to Arizona in a payback spot a couple days ago. Watch what they do to BYU tonight. The official pick, 9 for 9, to get ready for 10 for 10 next week. The Iowa State Cyclones, -8.5 to hang a number. This game is 10-2 Iowa State. Timeout Kevin Young. He's looking around going, where's Amari Stoudemire when I need him? He's not on the floor. BYU, you've had a nice little run. Enjoy your plane ride back to Provo with a big L by double digits.
That's greatness. Mike Randall, FTN, Chief Content Officer, FTNFantasy.com. He's coming up in a few minutes on SiriusXM Fantasy Radio, at Randall Rand on Twitter. 9 for 9 would be tremendous. 8 for 8 is tremendous. 5 for 5 is tremendous. If we somehow, some way get to 10 for 10, there's got to be stories written. You're going to have to go on Mad Dog Unleashed with Chris Russo.
I would hope 10 for 10 would get me there. Ames, Iowa, boys. Enjoy tonight with the Cyclones. BYU, enjoy that plane ride back.
There goes Mike Randall. Enjoy your show. Let's go 9 for 9. So for those taking score at home, I do believe it is Wyoming. I think I got the number mixed up. Wyoming laying a .5.
-1.5.
Yeah, that is literally a vendetta play. That's why we love Randall. He likes TCU. He said the wrong team is favored. He likes the 3.5 with TCU. And he also had A&M taking the 4.5. That's one of those ugly, you kind of plug your nose and take A&M, who've been playing poorly, hosting the best team in the country. But again, it's a bad spot. It's a good spot for A&M, who needs buzz, needs to energize this team right now after some bad losses. And Auburn, maybe fat and happy with the SEC.
Yeah, it's the right thing to do, to take the team at home with Auburn off that letdown, clinching the SEC. They can't improve their seed. It's like you go to the restaurant, you know you're supposed to order a salad, but I can't do that. I want the burger. And that's what laying the points to be on the road is, getting the burger that's not good for you. Versus the right thing would be taking the points at home with A&M and getting that salad. Not a relationship. You can't go at me. It's not a relationship analogy.
Right. But you launched into it, and I said, I could feel an analogy coming. When we win burger salad. All right. It's Tuesday.
It's all I got, man. Analogy, simile. I don't know the difference. I just know you compare them to things.
888 Mad Dog 6, 888-623-3646. The great Mike Randall looking to go 9 for 9 with Iowa State laying 8.5, hosting BYU. We'll get to your calls and also get to the football news coming up. VSiN Live, Mad Dog Sports Radio.
It's action. You're tuned in to VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio. Here's Patrick Maher and Dustin Swedelson.
Talking college hoops, top of the hour, we'll transition a busy day across the NFL. And then we have Ken Pomeroy joining in the next hour as well. Really looking forward to talking to the college basketball savant and Ken Pomeroy. Let's get your calls, 888-MAD-DOG-6, 888-623-3646. We go to Vegas and we say hi to our buddy Greg. Hey, Greg.
Hey, Pat. Hey, big guy. How you doing, guys?
What's going on, Greg? How are you?
Good. Hey, I think for the tournament, I think Duke is way overvalued because I think the ACC is absolutely awful. And I like Florida better at plus 750. They've won at Auburn. They were short-staffed that day, too. And they've got Handlockton back, too. So they've got plenty of guys on the big men. And then I think also their guards are extremely well. And they've got experience, too. So I think they can play any style you want. I think the plus 750 is a better value there, too. And, Pat, if I'm going out tonight, I need a review. Am I going with Drakkar or am I going with Coolwater?
By the way, you can get 9.5 to 1 on Florida, plus 950 over at DraftKings, just for the better number. But that is the point. No, Craig brought up the point, but the ACC does stink. Let me just say this quickly about Auburn. And we could talk to Ken Pom about this, but what's fascinating about what Auburn's doing is they played the toughest schedule in the country.
Yeah,
it's asinine.
Also dominating on the road in the SEC.
So for those that are just joining the program, that's a throwback. We're now on YouTube streaming live at VSiN Live. And I mentioned, if you can hear my voice and you've been, like my dad is obsessed with YouTube. So if you're on YouTube, you know what it is to go down a rabbit hole. And you know what it is to get caught up in the algo. Where if you're into something like chiropractic videos or fragrance reviews, they just keep pumping them out at you. And so I watched like 10 years ago, one fragrance review. And all of a sudden they just kept on popping up on my screen. And now I watch them daily and I don't even wear them. So to your point, Coolwater. I have smelled it. Drakkar Noir gives me bad vibes because that's what everybody was wearing when I was growing up. It's one of those smells. I smell it and instantaneously it takes me to a bad place. Coolwater's lit though.
But the YouTube algo controls your personality now, because now it's added a hobby to your life, which is now you're a cologne connoisseur simply because you watch these videos. I think I can crack everyone's back because I watch chiropractor videos. And the one thing I did learn I can't take out my own ingrown toenails, because that was another addiction for a while on the YouTube. Watching people get ingrown toenails removed and seeing them get relief. Mine ended with me going to the ER with an infected toe.
I'm pretty sure you watch the chiropractic videos because it's sexually suggestive.
Well, I mostly watch giant jack dudes doing it.
Oh, okay. So it's not like hot chicks on a table getting cracked?
No, I like big dudes getting thrown around.
All right. That's Dustin Swedelson, people. Coming back, his Giants have an interesting plan at quarterback. We'll discuss. VSiN Live, Mad Dog Sports Radio.
All night long. This is VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio. VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio. Here's Patrick Maher and Dustin Swedelson.
Hey, big guy, pull up those first pick odds for the draft, NFL, spring. VSiN's 24/7 sports betting coverage is now on SiriusXM channel 158 and the SiriusXM app, delivering real-time insights, expert picks, and in-depth analysis around the clock. Right now, VSiN is offering new subscribers an exclusive deal. Get your first 30 days of VSiN Pro access for just $1.58. It's a crazy good deal. Daily email with all the plays. Remember, we've got our betting guides. We've got everything covered as far as Major League Baseball with the betting guide. And then we're going to have, obviously, our March Madness betting guide as well. Exclusive betting splits. Join the VSiN sports betting community today and sign up at vsin.com/subscribe and use the promo code SIRIUS as we do welcome you back. And we are VSiN Live. Dustin Swedelson. I'm Patrick Maher. You can find us, not just hear us on, obviously, SiriusXM, VSiN's app, but you can see us now live streaming on YouTube and Rumble. I saw you just chuckling at the phone. Who's texting you? Your girl?
No, I wish. I was looking at these odds for Aaron Rodgers' next team that I just sent you, and I think they're hilarious.
Yeah, so we should discuss this. So today, obviously, franchise tag deadline day, and maybe you can pull up who and who did not get tagged. Now, we talked yesterday about the fact that Matthew Stafford was the big domino. The rumors or the reports now are he was offered a big contract by the Giants, $100 million for a couple of years, which is what he wanted. But he took less money for an opportunity to win a Super Bowl with the Rams and obviously not to move his family. We told you that on the show. He wasn't about to uproot his family at 37 years old and move from California to New Jersey. It just wasn't going to happen. But the Giants, who have a lame duck head coach in Dayball, and Shine, not Adam, the general manager, they're making moves, people. So they threw out a huge offer to a 37-year-old quarterback, Matthew Stafford. All right? He said no, decides to stay in Los Angeles. So now the Giants' plan is to trade up to number 1 and draft Cam Ward. So let's get this straight. They wanted the 37-year-old vet for 2 years on $100 million. When he said no, their second plan was to grab a 21-year-old kid, 22-year-old kid, and a project. Good plan. Like, if you're the owner of the Giants and that just happened, you have to pull the general manager and the head coach into your office and say, this is buffoonery. You obviously don't have a plan because you just went from grabbing a future Hall of Famer to moving up, giving away assets, and drafting a kid out of Miami. It makes no sense whatsoever. What are the odds for the Giants right now to draft number 1 overall?
Okay, so when it comes to DraftKings market for the number 1 overall pick, the team to make the first pick, we now have a tie atop the betting board. The Titans and the Giants are both minus 105.
All right, so the Titans aren't making the first overall pick.
No.
They want to trade out. They need assets. They're going to move out. The Giants are going to move up. If you missed it, Davante Adams was released today by the Jets. So the new rumor circulating is the Giants are going to trade up, draft a quarterback, and also potentially sign Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams. They'll be comfortable because they'll be playing in the same stadium they were playing when they were playing for the Jets. That plan right there is simply, it's a plan, no doubt, for your team.
Well, I mean, it doesn't help them. They're still not a playoff team. They still have a million issues. I guess my question would be, how did Aaron Rodgers look playing behind the Jets offensive line last year? Not good,
great.
Right?
No.
Well, the Giants offensive line's been in like a 12-year rebuild since the end of Eli Manning. So I can't imagine him looking any better. So I don't know what the point of Davante Adams coming with him is, because they're not going to be able to get him the football. And ultimately, the big issue I see here with the Giants just throwing things at the wall, hoping something sticks, is you have a GM and a head coach who are not making decisions in the best interest of the franchise. these two, Joe Shane and Brian Daboll, are making decisions based on how they can stay employed one more year, because if you get fired as an NFL GM and an NFL head coach, the likelihood of you getting a second chance when you were not winning in those roles prior are slim to none. So these are two guys grasping at straws, trying to hold their careers together so they don't have to take orders from anyone else down the road. And because that's the motivation, they are just making this thing up as they go along.
Yeah, it would be embarrassing. So Stafford and Devontae Adams, look for them potentially ending up with the Giants. The Giants potentially moving up to number 1 to draft Cam Ward. And then the other domino as far as the quarterback market, just 888 Mad Dog 6, 888-623-3646. The other market as far as the quarterback is Sam Darnold. Now, Sam Darnold did not. I thought he was going to get tagged, and I was mistaken. So Sam Darnold did not receive the franchise tag ahead of today's deadline. So that sets up Sam Darnold to obviously be the most coveted quarterback on the free agent market next week when it opens up. Minnesota, it's being reported, is still interested and working to resign Darnold, according to Adam Schefter. So interesting they didn't tag him, which lets you believe or leads you to believe that they potentially want to work out a long-term deal. So that leaves J.J. McCarthy in limbo.
But it also leads me to believe that they're open to losing Sam Darnold. Like, there's an element here because they didn't, like, they lost a piece of their control by not franchise tagging him. And to me, I look at Minnesota. If I just got that out of Sam Darnold, that the entire league has failed to squeeze out of that talent for the last few years since he was drafted in 18, I wouldn't want to get nothing back for him. At least by franchise tagging him, you could then trade him after the tag. So it's one of two things. Either they believe they can work on a multi-year deal and they can lock Darnold up to something here and make a run for a year or two, or they're comfortable letting him walk because Kevin O'Connell, maybe we're not giving him enough credit in the McVay, Shanahan category when it comes to grooming quarterbacks, but maybe there's a chance Kevin O'Connell looks at the free agent market and says, I did it with Sam Darnold last year. I can go do it with one of these guys again next year while we get JJ ready. So maybe there's a belief within that locker room and within that front office that Kevin O'Connell is the key here. It doesn't really matter who's playing quarterback as long as they have some talent.
Yeah, it's fascinating that Sam Darnold, a former Jet, obviously, is being coveted at this point. He's 27, and obviously he blossomed in the O'Connell scheme, led him to 14 wins. He had a total of 21 in his previous 6 seasons. He ranked 5th in the NFL in passing yards and touchdown passes. He had 35 touchdown passes. He earned his first career Pro Bowl invitation. Now, here is where I think Minnesota has a big decision to make, because it did certainly appear that he hit his ceiling at the end of the season. His final 2 starts were by far and away his worst. He threw for, didn't play well against the Lions and the Rams in the postseason. So, again, they closed out the season at the Lions. He was terrible in that game. He was terrible against the Rams. And that's what they're left with. Had a great season and then hit his ceiling, and that is the conundrum of Sam Darnold.
Yeah, but you win 15 games in the NFL. You can come back to the same system. I'd be really intrigued by that. Like, having to learn another system, you're not getting the same guy. And getting someone who can come back to that with Jefferson, with Addison, with Hawkinson, if I'm Minnesota, I feel like I got something over on the league. Like, because normally you have to try and trade for a guy that you can turn into a franchise quarterback. Sam Darnold showed that he could be one potentially. You're also not going to have to pay him true franchise money. You're just going to have to pay him, 25, 30, 35 million tops. You're not paying him 50 million. He's not going to be the highest paid quarterback in the league. So theoretically, you should have some flexibility when it comes to the cap space and being able to maneuver down the road. And your hope should be that if you do sign this deal with Sam Darnold, that J.J. McCarthy's irrelevant and you can go trade him to a team that's trying to rebuild and wants a young quarterback. Worst case scenario, Sam Darnold goes back to being the guy that he was in Carolina, and you have to turn things over to J.J., and when McCarthy's ready, he can kind of hit the ground running. I think for Minnesota, the move has to be to bring back Darnold, simply because you look at the NFC North. Your Lions lost both coordinators. A lot of questions about how Jared Goff's going to look. Green Bay is good. Are they great? They still need some pieces. Chicago's going to be better, but I don't think anyone expects them to win the division first year of Ben Johnson with a new head coach and a second-year quarterback that had a lot of issues his rookie season. Minnesota, if they bring back Sam Darnold, has the most continuity in the NFC North to go win that thing. And oh, by the way, with that defense, they'll compete to be the 1 seed again in back-to-back years.
So free agency opens on Monday at noon. We will find out then what happens with Darnold, because he is going to be heavily coveted, whether it be Pittsburgh, although there are rumors that Pittsburgh may end up going with Justin Fields. You're making a face.
Yeah, I believe that. I believe they could bring Fields back on a cheap price. Justin Fields is one of the more frustrating quarterbacks to me. You know what he is? He's my new Marcus Mariota, because it should look better than this. The talent is there to look better than this. There's just no aggressiveness. There's no shots downfield. There's no taking chances on 50-50 balls. Everything is just so safe, and there's so much more potential with the athleticism and the dynamic playability. I don't know why it's not happening. But I think if Pittsburgh was to bring Fields back, it would be because they're also drafting a quarterback. I could see Pittsburgh signing Fields, drafting Jackson Dart, drafting Quinn Ewers, maybe trading up for another quarterback like Shador. But I think it's a spot where if Fields returns, he's not locked in as the starter. They're also going to draft a kid to bring along. And by the way, I saw Devontae Adams listed as a potential option for Pittsburgh as well. That would intrigue me. Devontae Adams separating from Rodgers, if he goes to that offense opposite of George Pickens, all of a sudden you're talking about an offense in Pittsburgh that they add the right quarterback to the mix. It's a vertical passing game to complement that defense where they could really take a massive jump from a year ago.
Yeah, Devontae Adams to me has DeAndre Hopkins vibes. Where once it's over, it goes quickly.
Yeah.
And he wasn't great last year. Elsewhere across the NFL, so 2 tags were used. The last time only 2 players received the franchise tag was 1994. Two players received it. T. Higgins, obviously wide receiver with the Bengals. He received the franchise tag for the second time in 2 years. And then the other one was the guard with the Chiefs. I think it's Trey Smith, correct?
Trey Smith.
Yeah.
Yep, Trey Smith.
Tagged at $23.4 million. So just 2 tags used this time around.
Yeah, look, the defensive tackle from the Cowboys, who I'm not even going to attempt to say his last name, he signed a 4-year, $80 million deal. He avoided being franchise tagged. Also, Chris Godwin worked out something with his contract so that he wouldn't be franchise tagged either. So because of that, those 2 off the board when it came to the franchise tag this year. But pretty shocking, just 2 guys, only because that's supposed to be a rule that was created for these teams to have some control over the player pool. But maybe because it's such it turns players off so much to see them get franchised that now these teams are being self-aware and they're not going to do it unless it's absolutely necessary.
Yeah, it's crazy with T. Higgins. I'm sure he's bitter. And a lot of people saying the NFLPA shouldn't allow this 2 tags 2 years in a row, but he is going to get paid $26.2 million on the tag this year.
I mean, if we're being totally fair, not a political take, but the franchise tag is not democratic. It is un-American. This is not a free market. This is not okay.
I'm curious. I always say this, 888 Mad Dog 6, 888-623-3646. I always say that to me, the Steelers fans are the best fans in football. My very unofficial litmus test for this was when I lived in New York City. New York City has specific bars. I mean, obviously, but it has bars for every NFL team, and everybody congregates at those bars. Well, one of the Steelers bars was in Astoria, Queens, okay? And when I tell you that their fans were like European soccer fans, they were incredible. Like, they were so much fun to be around. It's just a great fan base. I'd be curious if you're a Steelers fan, what you want to happen at quarterback, 888-623-3646, because I don't think Justin Fields is going to fire up a fan base.
No, we've been through that before. And the only thing he adds is that he has the legs. But on the fan base thing real quick, think about I think there's 3 NFL national fan bases. Correct me if I'm wrong here. The Patriots are national because of the run with Belichick and Brady. The Cowboys, America's team, the TV deal, they were in everyone's TVs growing up for generations ago. And then it's the Steelers. And of those three, the Steelers fan base is the most likable. Like Cowboys fans, I'd say like 90% of Cowboys fans have never been to the state of Texas. Patriot fans, they're probably mostly from Boston, but they're annoying and obnoxious. I think for Pittsburgh, it feels like blue collar city, salt of the earth people. Like they're the most likable of those three national brands.
Yeah, I would agree. It does feel like, and this is for our buddy Tony in Dallas, it does feel like that I guess national brand that is the Cowboys is starting to fade a little bit with the lack of success, and just the concept of red zone and the fact that it's not just three networks. Like, so for me, I think the Steelers remain right there. Obviously with the Patriots, because such a whole generation grew up with them winning nothing but Super Bowls. So you're 100% right about that. And then the Steelers. And the Steelers fans are great. But they have a huge question mark at quarterback. And you know what else that leads us to? That leads us to Derek Carr and the Saints, who have the number 9 overall pick. There are rumors that the Saints do like Shedeur Sanders. The rumors have been pretty persistent that the Cleveland Browns wanted Cam Ward. If they stick at 2, which I don't think they will, if the Giants move up and end up taking Cam Ward, my assumption, Dustin, is that the Cleveland Browns will look to trade down because I don't think they're going to use the number 2 overall pick on Shedeur Sanders.
No, you can't do that.
Well, there are rumors that he is not making, how would you say it? He's not making fans of himself at these interviews with the organizations, that being Shedeur.
Yeah, look, I think some of that's being a little overblown. But there was like a couple GMs that I think told Russillo or McShay or someone, one of those guys that is out there, that they didn't like the way he interviewed. That I don't know what I was gonna say. White guys. That he just interviewed poorly. He came across as like cocky and arrogant. I don't even think that's not the issue with Shedeur Sanders. The issue with Shedeur Sanders is like, I don't know what he is as a quarterback. They had no run game. They had no offensive line. He dropped back to throw it like 55 times a game. He threw short bubble screens to the best player in the country and Travis Hunter over and over again. I don't know if he has touch on deep balls. He also didn't play against the greatest competition, the end of the Pac-12 in the first year of this weird Big 12 that's really not special and doesn't have marquee teams or defenses. So I think when I look at Shedeur Sanders, I think mentally, the way he speaks about the game, he does seem like he is a very cerebral quarterback who understands what he's doing. That's not the question. I'm actually just questioning the physical ability, the arm strength, and the playmaking. I don't know what that is. He feels like a safe play if he was to the middle of back end of the first round. But if you're drafting him in the top 10, I don't think he plays like a top 10 quarterback should.
There's rumors that the New Orleans Saints are interested in Shedeur Sanders. They picked 9 overall. Which would be fascinating because that's a team with a new head coach that is obviously in cap hell. It would be fascinating to see. I'm sure they'd love to get out from under the Derek Carr contract, but how are you going to move that contract?
It's tough because there isn't a team that's good that will take that on. Maybe there's a bad team and you have to attach a pick to it to get it off your books, right? That's kind of the NBA move. Will you take my bad contract? I'll give you a first rounder. I'll give you a second rounder. And that way you can just release the player and you take the hit because you're not expected to win. Derek Carr is such a conundrum because he's kind of like Justin Fields, as I was mentioning before. Like you watch what his skill set is. And you're like, that should be a successful quarterback. And then on 3rd and 3, you'll watch him throw it 40 yards downfield from his own 35. And the punt unit has to come out. He just does really dumb things with the football over and over again that it just doesn't result in winning football. He's not a winning football player, but like when you watch him throw, you go, that's a franchise quarterback. He looks the part. He looks like a character actor playing that quarterback one in a movie, but it just never yields the results you're looking for.
I think the big story, and we'll get to your calls here. I think the big story coming out of today is the Vikings willing to gamble on losing Darnold because it was pretty simple, cut and dry. You franchise tag him and you get JJ McCarthy ready. Because here's the thing about Darnold, and everybody's kind of mature. So what Jaden Daniels did. Now, Jaden Daniels is a little bit older as a rookie, obviously, because he played many years in college football. But Sam Darnold's 27 years old, as I said. That's an athlete's prime, 27 to 32, somewhere in that range. That's 28 even to 31, 32 is an athlete's prime. So the concept that Darnold, who obviously was highly touted coming out of USC and it didn't work out at the beginning, the fact that he's starting to mature and come into his own now, that's not crazy. And apparently he was teary-eyed and crying and hugging players by saying goodbye today. I just think it's a really risky move because if the Vikings, like you mentioned, if the Vikings are interested in extending him and using, obviously, sign him as a free agent, well, that's a gamble because there are a lot of thirsty teams that need a quarterback, the Raiders, the Steelers, and on and on.
Yeah, and it's like you're going to lose out on the opportunity. Like, think about this. They paid top dollar for Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins was the highest paid quarterback in the league at one point, making a ton of money playing for the Vikings. They were never as good with Kirk Cousins as they were last year with Sam Darnold. Like, think about that. Sam Darnold was an upgrade the first year post Kirk Cousins. So you're looking at that there. I'd also say him playing poorly down the stretch actually benefits Minnesota because now you might get a little bit of a discount. Maybe he was going to get more money had you ended up with the 1 seed, had you beat the Lions, had you performed better in the playoffs. Because of that, you actually may get a deal out of Sam Darnold in the long run.
VSiN Live, Mad Dog Sports Radio, 888 Mad Dog 6, 888-623-3646. Let's go to Laguna Beach and say hi to Bill. Hi, Bill.
Hey, fellas.
Hey.
2 things. I'm a Giants fan, and I hear you dump it all over Shane, and I'm not saying he doesn't deserve it or not. But what would you do if you're him? And 2, what do you think about Shedeur Sanders never having played for anybody but his father, and how it's going to translate to the NFL? Because I think once something goes wrong and his dad is not his coach, we have no idea how he's going to react to that. And if nothing else, quarterbacks got to have ultimate confidence and ultimate assured of who they are and what they're doing.
Bill, it's a good call, and I'll answer your question with a time machine with Shane, who's running the Giants. I'd sit him down, and I'd pull up the outline that had been put forth by the Giants organization forever, and that is build up front. Build up front on the defensive front, build up front on the offensive line, and if you are going to re-up Daniel Jones, which was Shane's decision, you may want to protect him. Because the lack of protection is exactly what led to Jones being moved on from, Jones not having success. Now, I'm not saying Jones is great. Did take him to the postseason. But the roster construct of Shane has been a disaster. We saw the video when Mara's like, you're going to trade Saquon Barkley in division? Yep. Saquon Barkley just got a new contract today as one of the great players of all time. Every decision outside of Malik Neighbors, wide receivers are a dime a dozen. So I can't even give him credit for drafting Malik Neighbors. All right, you went for the sexy play there. You can find a wide receiver anywhere. I'm sorry. He's very good. He could be special. But fine. The roster construct is a disaster. So what would I do at this point if I'm Shane? You have so many holes. Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders are not anything we saw in last year's draft. I would never give up assets to grab Cam Ward. That's my answer.
No. So if you're drafting a quarterback at this point, if you're the Giants, it's because that quarterback is so special talent-wise that he's eventually going to win you a Super Bowl. And no offense to Cam Ward, he was a 0-star prospect. He went to a small school, had to transfer to Wazoo. He's always had to be someone who's overcoming obstacles, right? He's exceeding expectations over and over again. No offense, but that's not the guy who fixes your franchise. Like, outside of Josh Allen, there isn't another 0-star recruit that can take a team deep into the postseason. And by the way, as awesome as he is coming off an MVP, he has issues in the playoffs too. But there just isn't a blueprint for guys like that to succeed in the NFL. I don't think he's athletic as people think he is. I don't think he plays within a system. I don't think he hits the layups that are necessary in the NFL to just move the chains and play within the offense. I think he's a guy who's made a lot of people happy because he's an underdog story and people are into that. But if you're going to trade up for number one, you need to draft someone with the physical capabilities to take your franchise and put it in a different direction.
Well, let me ask you a question. If Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders were in last year's draft,
Oh, God.
of those, 5 quarterbacks that were selected in the first round, who are either getting selected in front of?
So it went Caleb, Jaden, Drake.
There's no chance those three. There's no chance either Cam or Shedeur are going before those three.
Well, but by the way, Cam could have, right? If he could have came out last year. And had he gotten the grade that he was a first round,
I know, but I'm simply asking. Like, you agree? There's no way that there's no chance.
Not Penix, and honestly, probably not Bo Nix. Bo Nix went to, and I don't even like Bo Nix, but he went to the right spot that knows how to utilize him.
Maybe you could have a conversation that Cam Ward is selected before J.J. McCarthy. But remember, the campaign that Harbaugh was running, the greatest quarterback he's ever coached. I'm sorry. You can't, if you're the Giants, move up in a draft to take Cam Ward when he wouldn't have been selected within the top 6 last year.
No, J.J. McCarthy got drafted a year ago. He's younger than Cam Ward.
Okay. I agree.
So you would take the upside of J.J. McCarthy. Like, we know
I thought you just froze.
No, I was just like, he's younger than Cam Ward. Like, you would take J.J. McCarthy, the upside, the potential, the elite player, the decision maker. Cam Ward's fine. You want to take a shot in Cam Ward because you're a team with a lot of other stuff, a lot of infrastructure in place, middle to back end of first round, that's fine. When you're as far away from the Giants are from winning, you need to overhaul the whole thing. And unfortunately for Shane and Dayball, they're probably not going to be around to do it.
The college basketball GOAT joins us next here on VSiN Live. Ken Pomeroy. It's VSiN Live, Mad Dog Sports Radio.
This is VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio with Patrick Maher and Dustin Swedelson. Maher and Dustin Swedelson.
Okay, attention, Mad Dog Sports Radio listeners. If you're new to VSiN, sign up for our free daily newsletter. It's a great way to catch up. If you saw the newsletter from Bill A.D. today, he put a special announcement in there, and that is Ken Pom is joining us on the program. Delivered straight to your inbox every morning. VSiN's newsletter offers picks, data, and strategies for the day's betting menu. Sign up for free at vsin.com/newsletter and start receiving your free newsletter tomorrow morning. That's vsin.com/newsletter. Stay ahead of the game and bet smarter with VSiN. Okay, so the excitement when we let people know that Ken Pomeroy, including Steve Torrey, Jim Root, who was on the show last night, was like a little kid. We just had Mike Randall. He said, you guys are having Ken Pom on? Ken Pom is a low-key guy. And I want to say this, Ken Pomeroy, of course, kenpom.com. I'm a subscriber for many, many years. You should go subscribe as well. So is Dustin Swedelson. He has been super kind to us. He does not do a lot of media. He used to come on our show on Mad Dog Sports Radio, The Wrap, back in the day. And I just want to embarrass you for a second. So please humor me. I hope you know the impact you have within the college basketball landscape, because I don't think there's anybody close to you that is as studied and as admired and respected. Does that make you uncomfortable, or do you appreciate that type of adulation?
I mean, both. Obviously I appreciate it. How can I not appreciate it? I'd have to be the biggest jerk in the world to not appreciate that. But it also makes me uncomfortable. But yeah, no, I don't take it for granted. I was super lucky to be in this position, and obviously appreciate all the kind words that people have.
No, they geek out when they get so excited. The position itself, you've told us the story, but for a national audience that may not know it, you got into basketball in numbers. How, Ken?
Well, yeah, when I got into this, it was about 20 years ago. I was, working as a meteorologist for the government, and just was interested in basketball and interested in numbers, and the book Moneyball, I think it just came out. So there's a lot of interest in baseball analytics, and there wasn't much in basketball analytics. And so that's what kind of got me into it. Like I really, started at a time where having an actual job in basketball analytics just was unthinkable. Now it's very thinkable. Lots of people have those jobs, but back then it was like, I just started it as a hobby and never really considered any possibility of ever getting paid for my work.
Now, I just want to point out, when Patrick says we both are subscribers, we don't share an account. This isn't like Netflix. Like, we both have separate accounts. We're both paying for it. So we are not paid, by you to say that. We both separately have our things. And
mine renews every February. And every time I talk to Ken, I'm like, why are you charging so little, dude?
People get angry at you for this. Don't do
that. If it was $100, I would just automatically say re-up. Why do you keep it so low?
Yeah, because we can't do our jobs without it, if we're being totally transparent.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if I was smart, I'd have like two separate tiers. I'd have a media coaching tier, and I'd have a regular person tier, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. There's, I haven't done a lot of market research, so I don't know what the optimal price point is for me. But there is, a lot of my competition charges $0, right? So there is that thought that if you charge too much, you start to lose some business. So I don't know that I have the optimal price point, but I don't think I'm that far away, guys.
You should text me. Give me a cut of it. I'm going to jack it up. I'll promote the hell out of it. Let's get into the numbers. I asked you before you came on, I said, have you enjoyed this season? And you've put the numbers together for many, many years now. Is it true that Duke and Auburn, sitting 1, 2 respectively atop the Ken Pom rankings, are these two of analytically the best teams you've watched over the past 20 years?
Yes. Yeah. I'd actually throw Houston in there too, guys. Like, they might be a tiny bit behind those top two, but Houston is a force as well. I mean, they typically are just known for being this defensive team that wins on like hustle and stuff, but they have pretty good offense this year as well. Kind of reminding me of 2019 Virginia, when, Virginia finally got a good offense to go with that great defense. But yeah, all three of those teams are, at a level that, in any other year, they'd be like easily the best team in the country. But there's three of them this year, and they've been in my top three in some order since January 5th. So it just kind of gives you an idea of their level of consistency, which it was good to see the AP poll finally come around this week. And I think for the first time all year, ranked those three as the top three. So they're finally getting on board. But it's just kind of, yeah, it's been a special year in terms of just having that top tier where they've just looked almost completely infallible, just dominating their respective leagues.
So how about like the rest of the field, Ken? Like obviously we don't know the full NCAA tournament field, but when you look at all of the potential teams, would you categorize this year's college hoops options as this is a deep kind of options of teams? Do you think that it's more shallow? Do you think there are some smaller schools that can make runs? When you look at the overall options we're going to be looking at when it comes to the big dance, how would you categorize everything?
Uh, yeah, I don't know that it's necessarily any deeper than any years past. Like I have a hard time believing there's usually like much difference there from year to year. Whether I don't know how many realistically how many teams you think can win it, but the fact that you have like these three dominant teams at the top kind of limits that to some extent. But certainly, you're talking about getting to the Elite Eight or whatever. I mean, I don't know. It's to me the depth is pretty much there. I think when we talk about teams from like lesser leagues, one bid leagues, or outside of the Power Five leagues, there's not a whole lot of like interesting stories there. I mean, VCU, I guess, is your option. Obviously, Gonzaga, if they avoid, I guess, playing in an 8-9 game, which it seems like that's where they're headed right now. But Gonzaga, St. Mary's, and the usual suspects from the WCC. And then outside of that, like, I think VCU is probably the biggest name. And then outside of that, it's like you're dropping down to like UC San Diego or Drake. And both of those teams probably have to win their conference tournaments to get into the tournament. So kind of tells you what kind of seed they would get. So from that standpoint, I guess this year is a little bit lacking.
Ken Pomeroy joining us here, VSiN Live, Mad Dog Sports Radio, of course, kenpom.com. I want to go back to Duke, Auburn, and Houston, and just for those unfamiliar with your numbers, can you take a look at those three teams, Ken, right now and have a little fun with what stands out to you as far as the net, offensive, defensive, obviously strength of schedule. But when you look at Duke, Auburn, and Houston, what stands out as far as the numbers that makes them so special?
Yeah, I mean, we can go through them. Like, Duke, they've I mentioned this last night, but I'm a little surprised like they haven't become the obvious favorite for the title. I mean, they've just crushed their schedule. They've beaten Auburn head to head, mind you. It was at Cameron, but still, there is that data point. And that was back in December, and they're theoretically is a very young team, so they're probably better now than they were then. But ranked second on offense, ranked fourth on defense. So just elite on both ends of the floor, kind of personifying, their star player, Cooper Flagg, who is elite on both ends of the floor. They shoot it well from three. This is a team that, runs really a modern, modern style offense where they have a bunch of shooters and they're going to space the floor. And then they got guys that can, if you're not going to help off of those shooters, you got guys like Cooper Flagg that can do damage off the dribble. And, they got a very productive big in terms of Kaman Malawach, who is a kind of a dunking machine who thrives in that space in the middle. So that's what really, I think is what Duke is about, is like this tremendous offense. The offense has just been explosive the last 2 weeks, and they have a great defense to go. The defense kind of hides, but number 2 in the country in terms of 2-point percentage defense. So they just a tremendous combination. And Auburn's similar. Like Auburn's been tracking, all year to kind of have the best offensive rating since I've been tracking this, and really in college basketball history, because offenses in olden days were a lot worse than they are now. So, so they're similar in the respect, again, they, to have a great offense, they basically do everything well. They don't their specialty is not turning the ball over, to kind of pair with great shooting. So their offensive efficiency is through the roof. Their defense is similarly like really good. I haven't ranked ninth, but they're just maybe not quite on Duke's level. We can talk about how good the SEC is or not. That might be depressing their numbers slightly, and then you may think that Duke is benefiting from that to some extent. But again, Auburn, not many weaknesses there. And then Houston, I mean, I alluded to the fact that their offense is really the best of the Kelvin Sampson era. Third in the country in 3-point percentage. They don't have as many shooters. They don't take as many threes. So it's not like, the core of their offense, but it does help. I mean, they're 258th in 2-point percentage. So they're still kind of ugly in that respect, but they can make some shots in the perimeter, and that allows them to have the 8th best offense in the country. And their defense is still great. third in the country. 2-point percentage defense, fourth in the country. So, they're no fluke. Like, this is still a tremendous defensive team. They get to all the 50-50 balls, and their offense is like significantly better than it has been in the past.
Well, so let's talk about the SEC, because right now, looking at your rankings, you've got 4 of your top 6 out of the SEC. Like, and obviously it's the league that gets all the hype. It's the one that has the great marketing, but the basketball play has been elite this year. Do you see that translating over when it comes to the big dance? Do you see the SEC being well represented at the end of this thing? And how many of those SEC teams do you think are really capable of making runs?
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting. I went back and looked at so the SEC this year had in terms of non-conference play, had the best winning percentage since I've been tracking this, since 1997, and second best scoring margin in non-conference play. And the best was the 1997 ACC. The second best coming into this year was last year's Big 12. And those two teams combined to send 14 teams to the tournament, and one made it to the Elite Eight. So, so it gives you an idea that, just because you're the best conference, you want to be a little careful, projecting that towards tournament success. I will say this SEC is a little more top heavy than those leagues were, as you mentioned, 4 in the top 6. And you got to think that all those teams can make deep runs. Red flag Tennessee to some extent. The tournament history of Rick Barnes is just abysmal, and I hesitate to put a lot of emphasis on coaching history when, projecting these teams. But I mean, Rick Barnes is just doing this for so long and like disappointed so many years that I'm a little suspect on them. Plus, you just rarely see, certainly teams, in deeper rounds, you don't see as often teams with a Tennessee profile, which this year is their first on defense, they're 27th on offense. So just that lopsided of a profile on the defensive side is not a good formula for a Final Four or a championship run. But those other teams, Alabama, Florida, Auburn, I think they're all legit. Auburn, a little concerned with the health of Janai Broome. Like, I don't know why Bruce Pearlke's playing this guy. Like, they have a number 1 seat locked up. Every time you watch a game, by the end of the game, he's like limping around. He played really poorly against Kentucky in their last game out. Other than that, he has been productive, I will say, but I'm a little worried about his health. And if he's not healthy in the tournament, that could obviously hold them back a bit. But otherwise, I mean, the way Auburn just, wrecked teams this year, they're on upset alert tonight, I should point out, guys, at Texas A&M. But
yeah,
but the way they've wrecked teams this year to this point, you can't, you have to respect that. And they're obviously, one of the favorites to win it all.
Ken Pom joining us here. So St. John's obviously has been a huge story. Patino's always going to be a story. They just won the league. What do the numbers say about St. John's?
Very, very, very defense heavy. So second in the country in defense, 72nd in offense. This is an interesting point I want to make, guys. Obviously, Rick Pitino, legendary, I guess, for his like early adoption of the 3-point shot. Certainly way, 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 way back in the day when he was at Providence and the 3-point shot first became a thing in college basketball. He was one of the first guys to embrace it. But his use of the 3-point shot over the years, really you go to like his kind of the later part of his NBA life, and then as he came back to the college game, he does not use the 3-point shot nearly as much as he used to. And in fact, this year his team is 342nd in terms of 3-point rate. So that's kind of an issue there with our guy Rick Pitino. He doesn't really run the type of offense that is terribly sexy at this point, and that's part of the reason why their offensive efficiency is so low. So that's sort of St. John's in a nutshell. Just really good defensive team, very physical team. It's going to be hard to score against them, but it's also hard for them to really get a lot of like breathing room against some of their opponents.
So I have a problem, Ken. It's that I want to be the smartest person in the room when it comes to what we do, the betting stuff. I want the team that nobody was on, the team that shocked everyone and took down a top seed early in the tournament or made a crazy Sweet 16 run that no one expected. And when I look at your rankings, there's a team that a lot of people are talking about because of where you have them ranked. And I can guarantee most of us have not watched them. That is UC San Diego. They're currently number 35. And why that jumps out to me, the team currently number 36 is the 2-time defending champs in UConn. Is UC San Diego that team that could make a special run, or is there some other random mid-major that you think is built for March?
I think UC San Diego is probably your best bet. UC San Diego or Drake. I mean, those are the two that, as I mentioned earlier, have to kind of win their conference to get in. But UC San Diego has been, really consistent all year. A team that depends heavily on the 3-point shot. They take a ton of threes. Almost half their shots are from 3-point range. But they do have a bunch of shooters, and one of the more unheralded players in the country, and Aniwanwa Tate Jones, a guy to remember, kind of a ball handling wing, initiates some of the offense for them. Oddly, not one of their best shooters, but just a foul drawing machine. I mean, gets to the line, 8 or 9 times a game, 78% free throw shooter. So, having a guy like that can be a pretty consistent source of offense. So yeah, they're a really exciting team. They got a road win early this year against Utah State, and they're just, really, really solid. 4 losses so far. So they're a team to watch. Yeah, I'd throw Drake in there as well. People have been kind of gaga over their new head coach, Ben McCollum, and they have a very experienced team. He brought a bunch of transfers over from his previous coaching stop at D2, and have a point guard in Bennett Sturts, who basically plays every minute of every game. But he's been a very good performer this year. And another team that has just been extremely consistent this year, only 3 losses, and beat Vanderbilt early in the season, beat Kansas State. So they have some wins to show they can compete with these teams from power leagues. So I think those are the 2 teams to watch when we get to March.
Coaching matters, Ken. You've got Michigan State 9. Talent-wise, that's not a number 9 team on the Ken Pom rankings, but Izzo continues to get it done with Michigan State.
Yeah. I mean, Izzo's a good example of the coaching thing. Like, his March track record is a little bit overplayed at this point, but obviously they're having a great year. Jason Richardson is in particular, their freshman, probably one and done guard, is really playing well of late. Like, he's really finishing the season strong. I mean, you're right. They don't necessarily have a superstar, big time scorer, but they have a very good team. I mean, they're 4 or 5 guys out there that can generate offense, and it's just worked pretty well here down the stretch. They're really kind of hitting their stride and closing in on trying to win a Big Ten title. So, yeah, Michigan State's definitely a team to watch. Have them ranked 5th defensively. So, they got that side of the ball really kind of well oiled. Their issue is they just, have very little perimeter shooting, but somehow they're making it work. And as long as that defense stays strong, it's obviously a team to be a little bit afraid of.
I don't think I've made a college basketball play in 10 years without seeing what the fan match says. All right. You need to go check it out yourself. I'm a psycho when it comes to the Ken Pom fan match. Am I going to play this? Let me go see. Am I going to play this total? Let me go add up what Ken Pom has. Ken Pomeroy, kenpom.com. Hey, man, thank you so much. I know it's a busy time of the year. We appreciate the time.
All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Okay. At Ken Pomeroy on Twitter. There he goes. I mentioned to Dustin before we had Ken Pom on. That's like Sydney Sweeney.
No, I mean,
and our line of work, that's like landing Sydney Sweeney.
I mean, no, he might be harder. It might be more difficult. Because look, no offense to Sydney Sweeney, there's a lot of beautiful actresses out there. There's not a lot of people doing it like Ken Pom's been doing it for as long as he's been doing it. The consistency. My biggest thing is when you and I first started going to Vegas for the tournament, everyone would come up to us and try and tell us their sneaky team that they scouted out. They were lying. They didn't scout anyone out. They paid for Ken Pom, and they did what I just did and said, why is UC San Diego 35 on Ken Pom right behind UConn? They didn't watch that team play. They literally stole Ken Pom's research and algorithm and acted like it was their own.
If he is Sydney Sweeney, Ken Pom, Olivia Rodrigo is Mike Somich. He's joining us at the top of the hour. It's VSiN Live, Mad Dog Sports Radio.
This is VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio with Patrick Meagher and Dustin Swedelson. Mad Dog Sports Radio. Here's Patrick Maher and Dustin Swedelson.
Naya, Ryan doing a great job producing. I'm Patrick Maher, Dustin Swedelson. Our Olivio Rodrigo is Mike Somich, and he joins us, VSiN host, Ready, Set, Bet. He's going to be joining us for the next hour as well. We say hi to Samo Bomb here on VSiN Live. What up, Samo?
Not too much, man. I'll take Olivio Rodrigo any day of the week, man. Loved Driver's License. Was a fan of the Sour album. The daughter loved it, so I'm down for a little Olivio Rodrigo comparison.
Did you get into the Oscars?
No, I didn't. Not even a little.
I think a porn won Best Picture. You didn't watch any of the movies. You didn't watch any of the movies this year either.
No, nobody does. Everyone's a liar. We don't go to the movies anymore. Everything's a remake or a part 2 or a big Marvel series. Look, we have to be honest with society. We don't value movies anymore because we created TV shows that have movie production quality. And now instead of a season of a TV show, you get a 10-hour movie, essentially. We've totally transformed how we watch things. So nobody cares about movies.
Okay. A diatribe against movies, not exactly Siskel and Ebert here. I assumed Somich was into the Oscars because he's sophisticated.
No, see, I assumed he was into it because he had a betting edge and he only cared about his bets.
I think the Oscars are one of the worst things to bet. It is so difficult to try and figure out how because it's a voting award, right? Just like we talk about MVP and all the other awards that are voting awards, you have to try and get inside people's heads. And so to me, it's I don't know enough about movies, and I don't follow, the SAFTA awards, the SAG awards, the Golden Globe, all the other award shows that go before this that are supposed to point you to make a decision. I don't follow any of that stuff. So I'm not interested in firing at a show that I can't even stand to watch. It's 4 hours long. It's just brutal.
No, it's not good. It's not good. It's not interesting. It's so forced. No one wants to be there. They're all uncomfortable. And everyone's sitting there is just waiting to find out if they won their award. They don't care what else happens.
Just getting started with Michael Somich, VSiN host, professional bettor here on VSiN Live, Mad Dog Sports Radio. And if you want to see Mike's handsome face, you can find it right now on YouTube at VSiN Live streaming. It's VSiN Live.
Covering this. VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio. Here's Patrick Maher and Dustin Swedelson.
Okay, you can check out our next guest picks over at vsin.com/picks, along with the big guy who's been flexing lately because he's been on fire. Dustin Swedelson, I'm Patrick Maher, VSiN Live, Mad Dog Sports Radio. Again, we are streaming live on YouTube at VSiN Live. That's not a costume change, boys. I was just freezing. So
I was wondering what's going on.
No, it was like I had to go long sleeves. Somich was making me jealous because he looks all cozy, and I was freezing over here, big guy.
Speaking of the flexing, I did just notice, I don't know what this says about my health currently. I have been losing weight. We are approaching being under 300 pounds, hopefully in the next month or so. But I looked over my Apple Watch. I know it's not good when you're saying you're going to be under. I get it. No, this isn't the flex. This is probably a bad sign. I looked at my watch, and you don't wear your Apple Watch anymore, but mine for some reason thought I was in the middle of a weightlifting workout. But even worse than that, it said I'd burned 600 calories in the last hour. I've just been sitting here, so I don't think that's a good sign.
What games have you been sweating?
I was going to say, what player prop was about?
Yeah, something's getting that heart going.
No, it doesn't take much to get the heart going, unfortunately, as the ERs that I have attended to recently have learned the hard way. So, yeah, no, we got plenty of player props at vsin.com/picks. Need Kobe White, though. Kobe White is the big one tonight.
Here's one thing that old school listeners of the rap will remember this. At one point, I walked out of my studio, and Dustin was laying on a couch, and he said he had to go to the hospital, and then he was out for the rest of the week with heart issues. So I'm not saying okay, my man used to be in worse shape, but he used to take a week off a year because his heart gave out.
Yeah, could not take in a breath, and then turns out they told me it was all anxiety and it was all in my head. I said, I don't think that's how that works. I literally couldn't breathe.
Yeah, that's not great. Samo, we were just talking to Ken Pom about college hoops. My assumption is now, again, people use his numbers however they want to use his numbers. As a numbers guy, do you appreciate the work that Ken Pom goes into his ratings?
Oh yeah, he does a fabulous job. And if you are betting college basketball seriously, you have to at least know or keep an eye on his ratings, because a lot of times if games don't open right around where he has that line set to be, you kind of know which direction the game's going to move as well. And so you'll see a lot of people overnight, specifically when you'll see these lines come for the next day, they'll pop up at, we'll call it 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock the night before. People will just go through and scalp all the lines that are not on the Ken Pom number, assuming that worst case scenario, they're going to get the best of the number because it is going to move more toward his number than away from it. And so I think it's an important aspect of, if you're playing college basketball seriously, you have to know where he's setting the lines, because he is moving lines every single night.
Samo, I feel like this is something you're capable of doing, of creating your own numbers and putting them out there like this. And as our smartest friend, would like to encourage you to do that and allow us to help you along the way, because I'd prefer to not work anymore. And I think we could be millionaires if you could figure out a way to do this, and we can figure out to get it to people. Okay.
I would never do it for college basketball. Hard pass, no interest.
For another sport.
I like, if you talk to me about doing it for NHL, even the NFL, I think there are ways to try and build it. The NFL will be really tough just because of how saturated that market is. I think the NHL would probably be the one I would try to do it for, because if you can build the proper algorithm to spit out these numbers that are accurate, you're going to be able to get an edge on the market. But with how saturated the NFL market is from an algorithm perspective, and how much it would take to be able to write a effective one specifically for college football or college basketball, with all of the turnover that you have year in and year out, and the fact that you have to essentially not just have these incoming freshmen in college basketball who definitely matter, but you also have to have this transfer portal that definitely matters, and you have to create that algorithm to be able to understand the difference between a team as the year passes. And in college basketball, I think that's one of the most difficult things, is that the team you see in November and December is going to be very different than the team that you see in, February and March, because you're going to have a coach that's had a full season with the team. You're going to have a rotation that's set for a lot of these teams. You're just going to have completely different versions of the exact same basketball team with the exact same players 2 months later. And that's what makes it, for me, so difficult to make accurate college basketball numbers from just throughout the entire season.
VSiN host Mike Somich joining us. A little potpourri to start, then we'll get into specific sports. You're the general manager of the Giants. Would this be your philosophy? Let's trade up, get rid of a ton of assets to number one, and draft Cam Ward. At the same time, let's go sign Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams. Do you like that strategy? Because it's potentially going to happen.
Well, what's my job security, Patrick? Am I like currently on the hot seat?
You're on the hot seat.
Yeah, it's not. Well, what I would do is I would try and sign Sam Darnold to a 1-year deal instead of Aaron Rodgers. But the fact that you get Devontae Adams with Aaron Rodgers feels like they're going to be a package deal. I actually don't think it's a terrible strategy for this Giants team. If I actually had some type of job security, I would be tanking this year. Cam Ward may be a good quarterback. Next year's class is significantly better. Arch Manning will be in next year's class. That is a generational type player. If I have job security, I want to suck this year so that I can go get the guy that I 100% believe in versus the guy I am hoping is good in the NFL.
Okay, talk to me about Cam Ward, because you and I are both Miami Hurricanes fans. And there are moments where you're going, okay, I like Cam Ward. Do you see a special franchise-altering quarterback based on the 1 year at Miami?
I actually think that I was more impressed when he was at Washington State than I was at Miami, because he had weapons around him at Miami. At Washington State, he did not have those same weapons, and he was still able to be a very good quarterback. He understands progression very well. I do think Cam Ward has a legitimate shot to be a good NFL quarterback. To me, he's just not a slam dunk. Like if Cam Ward was in last year's draft class, he's probably third or fourth to go from the quarterback perspective. And so, while I do think Cam Ward is going to be at least a good NFL quarterback, you're going to need pieces around him. You're going to need an offensive line. You're going to need receivers. And there's not really a situation where I'm ecstatic that's at the top of the draft for a quarterback to just jump in and be able to play in that situation. I think we talked about this last week. I said go bet the Giants plus 550 for the number 1 overall pick. They're now a minus 105 co-favorite for that number 1 overall pick. It makes all the sense in the world for the Giants to go get him. I actually like him more if they do go get Favre and go get Adams with him, because then he at least gets to sit for a year and they get to try and improve that offensive line specifically before he's rolled out there with Malik Neighbors and the other weapons they have on that team.
Yeah, Somich came on the program last week and let us know it was 5.5 to 1 for the Giants to have the number 1 overall pick. They're right now listed at minus 105, tied with the Titans. By the way, Cam Ward's minus 1,000 to be the first quarterback selected. We mentioned the team to make the first pick, 105 on the Titans and Giants. And Cam Ward now is minus 250 to be the number 1 overall pick. Abdul Carter's plus 190. Travis Hunter is 7.5 to 1. I think the Travis Hunter conversation, Samo, is fascinating because obviously he wants to go both ways. I think you can have it settle. I think a conversation about, do you prefer a lockdown corner or a wide receiver? Obviously body control. He's a tremendous high point, like everything you want in a wide receiver. I think I want the lockdown corner. I know it's sexy with the receiver, but I want that kid focusing on just taking away a half of the field.
I agree with you. I would rather have that lockdown corner. Here's my thing with Travis Hunter, and I am lower on Travis Hunter than a lot of people out there.
Me too.
I'm not sure he's the best cornerback in the draft. I'm not sure he's the best wide receiver in the draft. But the fact that he plays both is why he is moving up draft boards. And I have yet to see someone in the NFL be able to really, and I mean really, snap after snap after snap, play both sides of the football. So you are buying into the fact that this is the best athlete ever in the NFL's history to play this wide receiver cornerback combination. And that to me is just a really tough sell for a high draft pick. Now, this isn't a great draft class, so someone's going to take him in the top 5. I actually think he ends up going to the Patriots. But if I had to pick with Travis Hunter specifically, I'd rather have him at corner because he does have this size, this length. He's a ball hawk out there. I want him to be able to create turnovers. And if I have packages for him to come in at wide receiver, great. But I would rather he focuses on the defensive side than the offensive side.
I agree. I'm not doubting the skill. I'm doubting the risk. I think the risk isn't worth it with him playing both ways. I think finding that lockdown, shutdown corner, much harder than finding a wide receiver. And at least with wide receiver, you can sprinkle him in here and there during the game and design plays for him. But speaking of Hunter, there is a market up for him at DraftKings. You mentioned it, Mike. Patriots 2 to 1, favorite to land him. Giants 3 to 1, Titans 5 to 1, Jags, Browns also 5 to 1, and then the Raiders jump up to 12 to 1. So, I mean, anyone outside of New England, I thought he was going to be a Giant. But if the Giants move up, that's out of the question. They're not trading up to draft a cornerback wide receiver combo. So that's the issue there. And the only other market up right now is Ashton Genty for player to be drafted by a team I'm seeing. The Raiders are the favorite, followed by the Cowboys. But I don't know, Mike, do you think teams really value running backs the same way they used to, where someone would take Genty high in the draft?
This is an interesting case here. We saw last year was almost the year of the running backs, and that was mainly because of who was available in free agency. We saw Saquon be awesome. We saw, in Baltimore, you got Henry go in there and be effective. We had multiple rookie running backs that came in and played well. Irving down in Tampa. You had Gibbs that was of absolutely massive importance for that Detroit team. I do think Genty is going to be picked in the top 12 to 15 picks. It depends if someone wants to reach out and really go get him and pay a little bit more than they should. But again, this draft is different than last year. If you look at last year's draft, we had 6 quarterbacks that went in the top 12. We had how many good receivers in the first round? 8, like legitimately good receivers in the first round. You had Joe Alt at offensive tackle. You had a lot of these important players at important positions. You don't have that this year. Okay. Your best quarterback this year would be the 4th off the board last year. If Travis Hunter was a wide receiver 1 last year, he would have been the 6th wide receiver off the board, maybe the 7th. If he was cornerback 1, he's the 3rd, maybe 4th corner off the board. Like there is just not nearly the depth of talent this year. And the one thing with Genty that I do think matters, his ceiling's higher than a lot of these other guys. He could be one of those very, very good players in the NFL. And after, you get through the Abdul Carters and you get through Cam Ward, and Shedeur Sanders is going to be taken high just because he's a quarterback, despite what we saw coming out of the combine here. Genty's one of those few players that you're like, hey, this could be a franchise guy. So I do think he gets drafted pretty high.
Yeah, I actually think because of last year being the year of the running backs, Genty's stock goes way up in this draft. Feels like a guy that is going to be drafted high. I wouldn't be surprised, like you said, top 15, top 12. The Darnold dilemma and if what Minnesota's doing is fascinating, because if the reports are true that they'd like to potentially resign him as a free agent, they're going to have so much competition come Monday because they didn't tag him today. I am flabbergasted that they wouldn't just tag him for a year and then figure it out then and figure out how the recovery for J.J. McCarthy goes and, kind of the production of McCarthy in the offseason. Were you surprised? No Darnold tag?
No, I wasn't surprised by it. I think it's very interesting. I think, first off, you could look at this 2 ways. I mean, this could be a massive positive for J.J. McCarthy, that this organization has as much faith in how his recovery is going and what we saw from him. I'm also not sure the market's going to be as hot as we think for Sam Darnold. If you look at the possible landing spots, I mean, Vegas is one of those that's come up. Pittsburgh looks like they're going to go Justin Fields, but it feels like they wouldn't mind having Sam Darnold as well. You hear about the Giants with Rodgers. Do they want to bring Darnold in and then draft a quarterback and put it behind him? All of it are question marks to me. I mean, Pittsburgh's never really spent on quarterbacks. Why would the Raiders really do that? You look at the Giants, it's like, again, if you can get him for cheap, sure. I don't know what the logical landing spot for Sam Darnold is from a free agent perspective. And I think the Vikings are saying the same thing and saying, hey, maybe we end up getting him on a 1-year deal for cheap, but he needs to try and cash in now. This is, if he goes back to the Vikings, the problem for him is he's not starting, right? It's going to be J.J. McCarthy. And so then he's just riding the bench for a year and hoping something opens up. Maybe he'll land somewhere like the Titans, but it feels like the Titans want to stink. It feels like they want to wait for next year, wait for Arch Manning in that class. So I think Sam Darnold's going to be a fascinating case study on Monday, because I'm not sure he gets anywhere near what we thought he was going to get after the Week 16 game when he was awesome. And now here we are 4 months later, and it feels like he'll be lucky to get $20 million a year.
Okay, the Vikings are 40 to 1, Mike. The Vikings 40 to 1 to win the Super Bowl. Let's say they do bring Darnold back and McCarthy's not ready and they won 15 games a year ago. I know you're not high on him, but how would you rank them in that division, and what would happen to their odds if he takes over at quarterback, going from 40 to 1 to what? And where do you power rank them within that NFC North?
I mean, if Sam Darnold's back, I think they have to be the second best team. I think you have to have them in front of the Packers. They released Jair Alexander recently. We'll see what they do on the defensive side of the ball. That's where they need to focus. You also have a concern, which was seen as a real positive for the Packers last offseason. We've got these 4 young wide receivers. One of them's going to be a 1. Well, here we are a year later. You got a bunch of twos. You don't have that guy as a one on that Packers team. And you look at the Vikings, they've got 2 ones. You've got Justin Jefferson. You've got Addison. I would rather be in this Vikings situation. And I would even have them like neck and neck as the second best team, even with JJ McCarthy right out of the gate, because I love Kevin O'Connell. I think he's a phenomenal head coach, a phenomenal offensive coach. You've got Flores on the defensive side of the ball. So for my money, I'm still Detroit, Minnesota, Green Bay, and that gap just widens if it's Darnold versus McCarthy.
Mike Somich joining us, part of the family. And speaking of which, the family bets on Discord. Somich posted some Kentucky Derby futures, also a link to an article he wrote for VSiN.com. Make sure you go check it out, the family bets Discord. Mike Somich, of course, VSiN host, professional handicapper, joining us, just part of the family, people. Oh, I mentioned this earlier because we were talking about, we just want to somehow get VSiN Live slammed directly into the algo on YouTube, because that's how you take off on YouTube. Like it just needs to keep popping up on your screen. People hear us, maybe they end up liking us and they stick around. We were talking about the weirdest rabbit holes that you've consistently gone down on YouTube. The big guys would it be chiropractic, Dustin?
No, it's the time period where I was watching the dude who goes to farms and fixes the hooves of the cows there. Like they have infections, they have cuts, they have chipped hooves, and he like locks it into the device and he just shaves it down so it like saves the cow's foot. I lost hours of my life in 2019 watching those videos.
Mine would be this. Now, back in the day, my mom would get me every Christmas, or Santa would get me like Polo Sport or, Voyage, whatever the cheapest cologne is. 10 years ago, I watched a video of somebody reviewing a fragrance, and I have for 10 straight years every day watched fragrance reviews, and I'm not even buying perfumes. I'm not even buying colognes. So that would be mine. I'm watching people talk about fragrance that I can't smell and I don't buy. Do you have one?
My one, I guess it's not really a rabbit hole. I watch a lot of poker content on YouTube, so that would be like the one that I guess is a little more in line with my overall personality. The one that's a little more, we'll call it a little digging deeper. I really like hidden treasures around the world, like any type of like buried treasure or like sunken ship or the Egyptian tombs. So I will get down a rabbit hole of like watching these homemade documentaries around the dig for Cleopatra's tomb and a shipwreck off the coast of North Carolina and random treasures that have yet to be found that people believe or know exist somewhere in the world.
I mean, you are if I could think of everyone I know, and like I was in, what's the National Treasure, the Nick Cage movie where he
love it.
Finds the map.
I even watched the Disney Plus show. That's how dedicated I was to that series. And that thing's terrible.
So, but like you are the friend I would want with me if I stumbled across a map for a buried treasure. So what's the best version of those movies? By the way, Outer Banks, low key, very good when it comes to that, but it's a bit of a teenage drama. Anything that is like your favorite style of movie where it's a treasure hunt?
I mean, I like all the treasure hunts. Like, so National Treasure 1, phenomenal. National Treasure 2, not as good, but still liked it. National Treasure 3, supposedly in production. Make it happen, Nick Cage.
Oh.
Can I tell you a story? Just a random story today?
Of course.
So, went to the park with my daughter, another dad, and he brought a bunch of lacrosse sticks. And they had the lacrosse goals there, and there was a lock on it. And it was a 4-letter lock where you had to figure out the word. I cracked the lock in less than 5 minutes without having a clue what the word was, because I figured out that all the words were on the same key. So if I tried play first, Play, and when I put play in and it didn't work, I noticed every single cylinder was a word now. So I just kept going from one to the other. Bam, unlock the lock.
I don't even understand what you're saying, let alone being able to solve that crime.
Wait, like, are you one of those people who can solve a Rubik's Cube in like a minute?
I can solve a Rubik's Cube because most people don't know this. You can just take it apart. So you don't even need to solve it. You can literally just pull apart the pieces and then just put it back together. And people are like, wow, how'd you do that? And you're like, I'm smarter than a Rubik's Cube. I don't need to actually figure it out.
Mike Somich here, VSiN host, Ready, Set, Bet, weekends, 1 to 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Samobomb 18 on Twitter. Let's go around the sports. So what's happening right now NHL-wise? Angles you're looking at. You mentioned one in particular as far as Jersey on the road. So the Devils on the road, first period unders, cashing like crazy.
Oh, it's starting to it's the first period under season, Patrick, and I am here for it. Let me tell you, the New Jersey Devils right now are the best team at catching first period unders, especially when they're on the road. Right now, they are currently 23-10 to the first period under with a 44% ROI. If you bet them all season long, they've gotten even better. Every single one of their games has gone under to the first period when they're playing on the road since we had the Four Nations break. If you look at the first period under ROIs, you're seeing the entire NHL spike. We talked about this 2 weeks ago. Once you get past that all-star game, that Four Nations break, now we are in playoff crunch time, and all of a sudden you're seeing a much more defensive style of hockey. Teams are caring about that 1 or 2 points much more than they were early in the season. That leads to tighter games. And, oh, by the way, officiating changes as well. So you're not seeing nearly as many power plays, especially early in the games for these teams. All of it plays toward first period unders. And I love the fact that you can literally search ROI based on home, road, unders. If you look at the home side, the Tampa Bay Lightning right now, 10-20 to the under at home. They are 38% ROI. They're the only 2 teams above 30% ROI on either home or the road. So when the Devils are on the road, when the Lightning are at home, good first period under teams.
So the trade deadline's Friday, Mike, in the NHL. Is there anyone out there you're looking at that you think might be ultra aggressive that we can get a good number on them futures wise versus post trade deadline? Like, what are the biggest rumors out there? And do you see that impacting these odds for the Stanley Cup?
You know, that's a great question. It's interesting. We talked about this on Ready Set Bet on the football side of like, hey, is there anyone in free agency or anyone that signs somewhere that will make you want to bet a team? The biggest pieces out there are not phenomenal this year in the NHL. I think one player really interesting to keep an eye on, Mikko Rantanen, who was actually traded from Colorado to Carolina, was supposed to sign a long-term deal before the trade deadline. That's not happened yet. The rumors are Carolina may be shopping him to move him along. If he ends up somewhere like Florida, that would be a team that I'd be very interested in taking. I am more interested in looking for teams that fill holes. So the Vegas Golden Knights, they need to go out. They need to get a blue liner. The Florida Panthers need to find a way to replace Matthew Tkachuk's offensive ability for them. So I'm specifically looking for teams to fill holes. The big one for me, though, if the Colorado Avalanche go out and get a second-line center, I think they make a ton of sense. We saw them be aggressive moving Rantanen earlier to be able to free up cap space. I think that the Avs are going to be aggressive at the deadline here, and they made the biggest move they needed to earlier, adding Mackenzie Blackwood in goal, and now you have these pieces to build around with Makar and McKinnon, and Nietzsche has fit in very well for them since the first trade. I think the Avs are aggressive at the deadline. I like the idea of them going out and getting someone, and if they do, that should help their Stanley Cup chances.
You have to make a bet on March 4th to win the Stanley Cup. Who are you betting right now?
Well, we got to look at price, right? That's the most important part of this. I'm passing on the Oilers, passing on the Panthers, passing on the Stars, passing on the Hurricane. Man, I'm hunting in that 12 to 15 to 1 range. The Knights and the Avs at 12 to 1 and 14 to 1, they both make a ton of sense for me. I think the Lightning at 13 to 1 makes sense as well. But if you gave me $100, Patrick, and let me free roll, I'd probably be on the Avs at 14 to 1.
Colorado, who we need tonight in the first period and laying a goal and a half. Let's go. 9-10 to play. Zippy. But we're going to get there. We're going to get there, big.
And they're all offense, right? They're a high-powered offense, right, Somich? I remember
they're a very good offensive team, but they also are good on the defensive side. So Cale Makar and Towles, they're their number one defensive pairing, play a lot of shorthanded minutes for them, even though both are very good offensively. And they both played on Team Canada and the Four Nations. They actually went out and picked up another defenseman earlier this week. So you've seen them add to that defensive side. They are sneaky good on both sides of it. But the key for the Colorado and what makes them so dynamic, their defensemen can skate out of the zone. They can turn a defensive possession into an offensive possession with their speed so quickly. So I like those kind of teams. The road's going to be tough. I think the Western Conference is better than the Eastern Conference this year, but I still like Colorado being able to get out of it.
We're going to continue cycling the puck with Mike Somich coming up next. So the Lakers now, Western Conference to come out of it. They're 6.5 to 1. A lot of people are starting to jock Luka and the Lakers. Is Somich a buyer? We continue. It's VSiN Live, Mad Dog Sports Radio.
4 minutes.
Control center. Okay.
Dog Sports Radio. Here's Patrick Maher and Dustin Swedelson.
All right, if you want Somich's picks, VSiN.com/picks. You can get it now. Become a VSiN Pro for $1.58. VSiN.com/subscribe. Promo code Sirius. Become a pro right now. Okay, we got you. And by the way, it's the best time of the year. You've got the baseball guide out. Did a great job. You want to know everything about all 30 teams, we've got you covered. Become a VSiN Pro. We're going to have the March Madness guide coming out, get you set up for the tournament bets. But essentially, signing up for $1.58 gets you tons of picks every day from experts. So it's pretty simple, and we email them to you as well. So go check it out. Dustin Swedelson, I'm Patrick Maher. Of course, Mike Somich, part of the family here. We're just kind of a random potpourri. We were talking about the NBA, and Dustin just said that Oklahoma City went to plus 185 to win a championship.
75.
Plus 175?
75,
right.
Yeah.
So the couple of things. One, I think, and I don't know, I haven't looked over the past 2 days. I think Cleveland should be favored to come out of the East. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful to Boston, but Boston's going to be like what? $1.45 to come out?
115, minus 115.
And what's Cleveland's number to come out?
Plus 210.
All right, Somich, first off, you can't lay $1.15 on Boston come out of that conference.
I don't think that conference is bettable right now. I think that Boston should be the favorite, but I agree with you, Patrick. I'm not laying a minus 115. I would have rather bet them earlier in the season when you get plus money on their side. And it feels like if you wanted to play Boston, you kind of missed that boat. It's to a point where if you're going to play Boston in some way, you've got to play them to beat a specific team from the Western Conference or in a specific matchup, because the minus 115 doesn't feel like there's any value to it, especially since you could probably just parlay them in series and you would end up with better than minus 115 if you do it through the 4 rounds.
But it's obviously a 2-team race, right? The Knicks are losing right now at home. I mean, it's a close game, 92-89 to the Warriors with a little under 9 minutes to go. But Boston minus 115, Cavs plus 210. You don't give the Knicks or anyone else in the East.
You ever heard of the Pistons?
Right?
You ever heard of the Detroit Pistons?
Oh my God.
I'm sorry.
No.
Sorry, son.
No, I haven't. I haven't heard of the Detroit Pistons in years, Patrick. Look, you're right. This is a 2-team race in the East. I think the West is much more interesting. The East is really just Cleveland and Boston. Obviously, if you have big injuries on both of them, but I don't really see like how you could get the injuries that would stack up to the point where neither of those teams are able to get out healthy through the Eastern Conference. So I do think it is one of those two. Out West, I think it's a lot more wide open than the Thunder minus 125, which is currently the price out there. I would not touch the Thunder at that number. I want to see them be able to do it in the playoffs. I get they're better than last year. They lost to a Dallas team that was worse than them last year, and it was because of size and their ability to be creative on the offensive side with Luka. I just look at some of these teams. Like, I think Denver gives them problems. I think that Memphis gives them problems. I think that even a Minnesota team would be a tough out for them if they do end up playing in the first round. I just don't see the easy path for Oklahoma City that I see on the other side for both Boston and Cleveland. It feels like you're going to run into a couple road bumps as you go, and we haven't seen this team be able to get over those road bumps yet and be tested. So I'd be fading Oklahoma City at this price right now.
I don't know if you're a big karma guy, but it does feel as though the Dallas Mavericks organization is swimming in it right now. So if you missed top of the show, big news, Kyrie Irving shut down for the year, ACL, he's 33. AD, upon hearing the news, decides he's going to shut it down, most likely, for the rest of the year. And Luka and the Lakers have won 6 straight. The last time the Lakers lost a basketball game was against Charlotte because Luka didn't play. He's literally directing traffic. He's telling LeBron where to set up on offense. He's 25. Dallas came out and said, by the way, I know we shipped away your native son, but we're also going to raise ticket prices for next year. And it's a disaster. They have to move the franchise, the Dallas Mavericks. Mike Somich.
I don't remember a single sports franchise collapsing so quickly. I mean, everything that could go possibly wrong immediately goes wrong. They trade Luka. You get Anthony Street Clothes Davis in return. He immediately is in street clothes because of an injury. Now Kyrie is down. You're literally kicking people out of the arena for no reason there because they are exercising their First Amendment and just talking crap about the GM and everybody else there. This Mavericks franchise is a mess now, and it's honestly hilarious with how quickly that it happened. The Vegas rumors are just swirling even harder now that the Aldersons want to move this team to Vegas, and that's why everything went down with Luka. And We'll see. We'll see what happens. Like if this Dallas team was healthy, I like this roster. I don't like it as much without Luka. Like I'd rather have Luka for the next 14 years, but from a single season, this was a pretty well constructed roster, assuming everyone's healthy. And that's a really big assumption when your number 1, 2, 3 centers and your number 1 scoring option is down. Now you've a Klay Thompson team led by Klay Thompson heading into the playoffs, which is a disaster in Dallas.
Not ideal.
No, even the Florida Marlins are impressed by the teardown and how quick it happened. Because the only other comparison I have is winning it. They didn't win a title, Dallas, but they were in the finals and then couldn't be further away now. The Kyrie thing is tough too, because we're acting like Kyrie's something that he isn't, which is a 1A. Right, he's really a number 2 right now at this point in his career. But watching him shoot those free throws, I don't know about you guys, I felt for the guy. That's tough. Second ACL, shooting those free throws on the way out, and now the season is up in flames. You guys talked about the Lakers, you talked about the Thunder, you talked about the Nuggets. Can we get a little love for my Warriors, Somich? Can we get a little love? They're down to plus 750 to win the West. They're up. Will you stop? Don't be rude. Don't be rude.
Go ahead, Jimmy Butler.
Will you join me in believing in Jimmy Butler and the Golden State Warriors with Steph Curry on a heater right now that they've got one more run in them?
No, not even a little. Not even a little. Look, that's great. Jimmy Butler, awesome. Steph would need to be superhuman to be able to, because like they're not playing, and he's very good, don't get me wrong, but he would need to be superhuman for 4 straight weeks for them to have a chance to get out of the West. I mean, the defenses that they would be playing and the depth and the quality of team night in and night out that they would have to go beat is just way too tall of a task for a team that, I'm sorry, they're not very talented. Like that's really what this bottom line comes down to. Steph's awesome. Jimmy Butler is at times very, very, very good. Draymond Green, meh. Like what else we got? Like give me who's the third offensive option, Dustin?
Pajemski.
Okay, thanks.
Exactly. Comes back.
All right, Patrick, next question.
So keep betting your money. I mean, unbelievable. How about the Lakers? So I didn't want to buy in. I'm all in. There's 5 dudes on the court at the same time. You've got 2 transcendent superstars. They're defending. LeBron is completely rejuvenated, and Luka's pissed. Are you in on the Lakers?
You know, they are like must-watch TV. I can't take my eyes off them. I'm not sure if this works out this year. LeBron has to defend at the level that he has since the trade, where he is playing like 25-year-old LeBron on defense, just expending so much energy on that side of the ball. But you know why that works? He doesn't have to do it on the other side of the ball. He doesn't have to be the number 1 option in the person making the offense happen every single time down the court. And so you're seeing him decide to expend more on that defensive end. And you've got a great number 3 option there on the offensive side. I'm not sure how long this defense holds up. If you look at what JJ Redick has done, and he has done a phenomenal job coaching this team. He's just awesome being able to go through everything that's happened this season and have the team playing as well as they are. LeBron's playing the 5 on defense for like 15, 20 minutes a night right now, and they're playing this weird zone scheme. If you look at his rebounds per game since that Luka trade, he's averaging over 10 boards per game because he is just cleaning up some of the mess from underneath the basket for 10, 15 minutes a game. By the way, like LeBron, over 7.5 rebounds tonight. Until they switch up this style, I'm going to keep betting LeBron rebounds, and it's working great now. But again, when you get into the grind of the playoffs and it's only good teams and it's back to it's every other night, I'm not sure the defense holds up. This Lakers team could be awesome if they make a couple correct moves this summer, though. They're a team where, like, I will probably bet the Lakers to win the NBA championship next year, the day after the season ends, because I trust Rob Pelinka will go and get the pieces, specifically on the inside, that could make the difference for this Lakers team in 2026.
Isn't that crazy? Because, like, if I would have asked you that question 2 months ago, you'd been like, Rob Pelinka doesn't make the moves. LeBron James makes all the moves for the Lakers. What are we talking about here? And they're 15-1 to win a title. So what do you think they even – let's say they don't win the title this year, Somich. What do you think they open next year's odds before the preseason at? Do you think it's around 15-1, or do you think it's a little bit shorter, anticipating like it's baked in that they're going to have a big offseason?
I would hope it's 10-12, more toward the higher side of that, because here's the thing. Like, yes, I am projecting that they're going to get a center. I'm projecting that they're going to be able to get a wing or two on the defensive side as well. People are going to want to come play for this team, right? And the other part is, like, Houston's really good. Memphis is really good. Boston's really good. Oklahoma City's really good. They're not going anywhere. So you still have the Lakers as the 5th or 6th choice before they make any moves to be able to win the NBA Finals. Because of that, I do think you get a double-digit number on the Lakers the day after the finals end this year.
I feel like my nephew who's 15 and he is a part of the generation that just jumps with their player. I'm a Laker guy. I'm a Pistons guy first and foremost. But the Luka situation, the way he was handled and the smear campaign after it, I thought he's comported himself well. The funny part, Dustin and I were talking about this yesterday. It's like he's being crushed for being immature and all this kind of stuff. He's married with a child. So it's like, I'm not saying that makes him a perfect person, but it certainly shows some modicum of obviously responsibility. I'm in on the Lakers because I'm in on Luka.
He's awesome. And you pissed him off. That to me is the funniest part in all this. Like the idea that you were going to trade him and he was going to be like, oh, I'm going to feel sorry for myself and put on 30 more pounds is just absolutely asinine. Once you traded that guy, you lit the fire. And we've already seen him play better defense in LA. We've already seen him look like he's losing weight in LA. No one should be surprised by this. This is just one of those moves that's like generationally is going to go down as it's the worst trade in NBA history that I have ever seen. And
it's
it feels
the worst
like
trade in the history of sports.
Oh,
he's 25.
It's going to live there for a while. Like, how do you outdo this?
Mike, they anticipated something that wasn't an issue yet becoming an issue. This is like how I used to self-sabotage myself in every aspect of life. I'd create a future instance that hasn't happened yet, and I'd ruin whatever was in front of me. It's not directly a relationship analogy, but it's sort of
say anything.
I have to come back at you before you come at me. My point is, Mike, their issue is he's out of shape and he's fat, but he was out of shape and fat and carried you to the finals. It wasn't an issue.
Well, that's the crazy part. Dude's out of shape, yet he played a full NBA season, got to the NBA Finals with a mid team, as Dustin would say, and then goes and plays in the Olympics. It's not just the NBA season. He played like 100 and something games last year and did not have any major injuries and was healthy and was able to carry you that. Oh, by the way, a couple years ago, he got you the conference finals when you had absolutely nothing around him too. And he was out of shape back then. So imagine, I can't understand.
Here's all you need to know. The dude that has the chosen one tattooed on his body and calls himself the king has reverence for a 25-year-old white European basketball player. And when I say, watch the way LeBron looks at Luka.
Oh,
they've got a secret handshake. LeBron's laughing with some of the passes Luka's making. He's transcendent. Like, I put it this way. If Anthony Davis is generational and he's going to the Hall of Fame, it still doesn't make any sense because this is a transcendent player. Anyway, I'm beating a dead horse. It's
in a more important position.
It's insanity. What did we not cover that you would have liked to cover before we say goodbye, Mike Somich?
We touched on the horse racing article. I just want to mention how awesome this year's Triple Crown class is. Like we've talked about, we got Bob Baffert back this year, and no matter how you feel about him, you cannot deny that having his horses in the Kentucky Derby makes it more interesting, more fascinating, a different handicap. We have got 6 horses, maybe 7 that I would have picked last year in last year's Kentucky Derby in this year's class. Hopefully they all can get there healthy. I love journalism. He was awesome over the weekend. I thought that Sovereignty was phenomenal considering everything that he was up against. Disruptor, who's like 95-1 in some places, I think has a shot at winning the Derby if you want to go hunt that one down. And Capricorn might be the best Baffert, or Cornucopian, I'm sorry, might be the best Baffert that is actually on the track, and he's yet to even run in a stakes race.
There are 6 horses on the Triple Crown Trail that you would have chosen above the class from last year that entered the Kentucky Derby.
Yep. It's just a completely different group. I mean, last year we're talking about Forte as a short price favorite, but there's all of these knocks on him. And you're talking about Sierra Leone. He couldn't run straight down the stretch in the Derby, and he proved it again in the Derby. You're talking about Forever Young, who we didn't know how he'd handle America. Like, you have all of these horses who have already proven more, and we still have another full round of preps before we get to the Derby.
Yeah, we're 2 months away. So how many horses will we whittle this down to? Like, how many horses are we looking at will be there in the end?
So there's going to be 18 U.S. horses, and they'll win. They'll try and win their way in via points. And so you get points through qualifying races. We're in the 100-point races right now. We get 50 to the winner, 20 to second, and so on and so forth down the line. We'll go up to 100-point races a little bit later in the season. We've got the Tampa Bay Derby this weekend. We've got the Louisiana Derby after that. Then we'll have the Florida Derby, the Arkansas Derby, the Santa Anita Derby. All those are 100-point races. The top 18 U.S. qualifiers get in, then one from Europe and one from Japan will also get in as well. So we'll end up with a 20-horse field, but the top 18 U.S. qualifiers will make the gate.
I don't know why I never knew that. I never knew how the sausage was made. I just thought it was random.
Selfish question.
Draw out of a hat.
Selfish question before we say goodbye, because I'm going to bet hockey late night, Wild Kraken. The Kraken are a slight favorite at home. Wild's a better team. No.
Wild is a better team, but the Wild have not been cracking as of late, as if you want to put it that way. The Wild just haven't been good the last 2 weeks or so. They did beat Boston at home, but Boston was back-to-back second night. Kraken's actually not a terrible team. What's the total in that game? We get 6.5 or 5.5?
Yeah, 5.5.
I would lean the under.
I'm not betting an under 5.5.
I know you hate unders. I tell you to bet unders in hockey all the time.
I do bet unders, but in hockey, I'll lay off a 5.5. I'll bet under 6.5, obviously.
No, yeah, I mean, that whole goal difference.
I bet under 6, but the 5.5 kills me.
Yeah, all right, that's fair. That's fair.
You're looking at a defensive affair up in Seattle, Mike Somich.
You don't even.
By the way, Kraken.
Yeah.
Greatest moniker ever for a franchise across the four majors.
Well, you want to go down a YouTube rabbit hole? We'll bring it all back. Is a Kraken real? Does it actually exist? There's actually quite good videos on the YouTube there talking about the Kraken and taking down some ships.
It's a sea monster, correct?
It is. It's a giant squid.
Oh,
very large.
I thought it was like a dinosaur looking thing.
The Kraken? No, it's like a massive squid that can take that. It's like a bigger octopus, but a squid. It looks like a squid.
Oh, I see it.
Yeah. When you're going to try to solve the mystery of the Kraken, make sure you give us a follow at VSiN Live on YouTube and stream the show. Mike Somich, VSiN host, professional bettor, SamoBomb18 on Twitter. Go back to the girls. Thanks for your time, buddy.
Yeah, appreciate it, guys.
Okay, there goes Mike Somich. We're coming back with closing tabs next. VSiN Live, Mad Dog Sports Radio.
VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio with Patrick Meagher and Dustin Swedelson. wrap up today's show. You see what I did? Yeah. By finishing all of the conversations we touched on today. This is Closing Tabs.
It's time to close some tabs here on VSiN Live, Mad Dog Sports Radio. Your home for hoops is on SiriusXM NBA Radio Channel 86 at 10 Eastern. LA Clippers face off against the Phoenix Suns. Hear every NBA game on SiriusXM for a full schedule, times, and channels. Go to SiriusXM.com/sports. The big guy as we close out a Tuesday program. I make it rain like crazy.
We need a drop for that. All right, I want to play a clip for you, Patrick. You don't know this is coming, but Howie Roseman, and arguably the best executive in sports right now, what he's done with the Eagles, winning 2 Super Bowls in recent memory, the way he's assembled the roster, the way they're always just plugging a few holes here and there every year and they're in contention. He went on a radio show at the Combine and talked about how winning the second Super Bowl was different from winning the first one. And here's what he said.
So I'd say like the first one's almost like, can I say this?
Yes,
can we delete this? Is this live? You don't know what I'm saying? You don't know what
this is the best part. You can be you.
It's almost like the first time you have sex. You're so glad you had sex. It's not even the quality of it. The second time,
It's actually great.
the second time, it's like, wow, I could actually have fun and enjoy this.
Weird. By the way, Howie Roseman sounds like Jacob, the producer.
He does a little bit. Was he at the strip club making it rain on
That's all
Friday
I
night?
could
That's
think
the
about.
question.
Oh, I make it rain like crazy.
Like
that's that's a weird quote.
Yeah, but post-sex, my mentality is very much like the cliche sports quotes, like, you can't take this moment for granted. Look, it wasn't our best effort, but I still believe in our abilities in the long run. I really appreciate the opportunity to show what I can do. Hopefully we'll get here again. Like, I literally, in my mind, it is all sports cliches after I finally have some sex. I mean, even like things like, man, that was a hell of a shot in the one hole there.
See, I was about to give you credit because I did like the shtick. And then you ruined it with the last one. Tried to go too hard.
Well, let's adjust. Next time we will finish the job. That's what I'll say. Or both of us will finish the job, really.
I don't hate that. I didn't hate the shtick. I mean, I saw you reading it, but I still didn't hate it.
Yeah, I thought we
Howie
did
Roseman. Well, first time's like having sex. The second time you can enjoy this thing. All right. Nice analogy. What else you got?
All right, Mike Randall earlier on the program trying to go 9 for 9 with Wyoming -1.5 tonight. He talked about the dribble drive offense, looked it up, basketball strategy that involves a player dribbling towards the basket while other players spread out on the perimeter. Literally think that's what the entire league runs. That's all the strategy is.
That's called basketball.
Yeah. Penetrate and dish out to the open guy. And it was started by Fresno State head coach Vance Wahlberg, who was at Pepperdine, and that's when Randall had a confrontation with him. Mike Somich was just on the program, a member of the family here. He said he's looking for teams that can fill holes. I knew he was an open-minded guy. I didn't know he's into the group thing, so shout out to Mike. By the way, I don't judge. We also briefly mentioned next year's quarterback class, and we keep saying Arch Manning. Want to point out there's 3 other interesting names. You're going to hate one of them, but you also called me about one of them, and you've never called me about sports. The one you're going to hate is Drew Aller, Garrett Nussmeier, and the one you called me about, Nico Iamaleava. So on top of Arch Manning, all of those players are all better than Cam Ward.
Agreed. Totally agreed. The Nico kid, he's got the perfect build. Auburn right now, a tight one at A&M. A&M leads by 1, 28-27, 3:26 to play. A&M jumped out to an early lead. Tough spot for Auburn. We talked about it after locking down the SEC. Here's one. BYU's up 9 with 32 seconds to play in the first. 33-24 at Iowa State. That'd be a big upset. They were catching 8.5. And, wait, that's his play. That's Randall's play for 9 for 9.
No,
Iowa State.
I thought Wyoming was the 9 for 9. Okay. No. BYU was the play. Okay. No.
Iowa State laying it against BYU's the play. So he's going to need. Huh?
Let me just give out Randall's plays again. He's on A&M, who I saw jumped out to a hot start against Auburn.
Yeah.
He laid 6.5 with Oregon versus Indiana. He's -1.5 Wyoming at Fresno. I don't have the Iowa State. What was the BYU Iowa State score?
BYU Iowa State
up
33-24, 32 seconds to play in the first, and he laid 8.5 with Iowa State. So it looks like the magical carpet ride could be coming to an end tonight. He's going to have a monster second half, obviously.
It's not over yet. Little Hilton magic. That's what they call it there in Ames. Let's see. Closing tabs. This is a personal one. I didn't know this, and it's not a political take. Apparently, my parents are anti-vaxxers, and I just found out. I got a text from my mom this morning. There's currently a measles outbreak in America. You need to go get a blood test to see if you're immune because you didn't get all of your vaccines as a kid. Measles is dangerous, and you need to take care of this. Measles is so dangerous that my mom didn't take care of it when I was a helpless child.
That would be right back. Hey, Shorty, that's on you. So if I get the mumps or the measles, I know I'm coming to you. You can be an anti-vaxxer, but you got to vaccinate you. Anyway, look, I don't want to talk about it. I would just assume my parents vaccinated me as a kid. Let me make some decisions for myself when I get a little bit older.
Look, here's what I would say. If you were to find out I died in a variety of ways, you would not be surprised. Heart attack, diabetes, all those usual things. If I die from measles, I'm going to be so pissed in the afterlife.
You know what that is? Bad beat.
It's a bad beat. It just shouldn't happen in 2025.
Yeah, your parents botched it.
It's not a good look. It's just not a good. It's not. They're good people. Happy 43rd birthday, Landon Donovan. Also on this date in 1789, the U.S. Constitution went into effect as the governing law of the United States. Hey. So that was a big day. And then on this day in 1933, your boy FDR was inaugurated as the 32nd president.
Landon Donovan, the MLS MVP trophy named after Landon Donovan.
He stunk as the team captain. He stunk as team captain. They didn't accomplish anything. Stolen.
Nia Ryan, thank you. Randall, thank you. Somich, thank you. Ken Pom, thank you. It's VSiN Live. Make sure to give us a follow on YouTube as well. We'll see you tomorrow.
This is VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio with Patrick Maher and Dustin Swedelson.